Okay, dear members of parliament, dear friends, welcome to the parliamentary web dialogue on countering terrorism and violent extremism amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the very first ever online event organized jointly by the Parliamentary Assembly of the OSCE, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, and the UN Office Countering Terrorism. Today's initiative shall take stock of the latest terrorism trends against the background of the ongoing health crisis. And it shall provide a friendly platform to reflect upon the important contribution of parliamentarians to security challenges in our region. I would like to welcome our three keynote speakers, Ambassador Mohamed El Amin Olduk Ikek, Ambassador Alena Kupchina, and Dr. Andrea Mergelletti. In addition, I also welcome, and you've heard them before, Mr. Gennaro Migliore, Mr. Reinhold Lopatka, and Mauro Medico, who will soon deliver their opening remarks on behalf of PAM, OSCEPA, and UNOCT, respectively. Thank you all very much for contributing to this event, which symbolically takes place on International Day of Parliamentarism, and we will hear soon also a little video from the UN Secretary General. A special word of appreciation for my colleagues and friends, the PAM Secretary General Sergio Piazzi and the UNOCT Under Secretary General Vladimir Voronkov for their vision and commitment to peace and security. I also would like to greet the former CCT chair, Abid Raja, who I think is connected from Norway, who is now serving as Minister of Culture and Sport in Norway. I will give now first some technical details. I've been asked to go very slow on this because, of course, the OSCPA colleagues are used to these settings, but the colleagues from PAM maybe are doing this for the first time. So I will walk you through some technical announcements. So please note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcasted live on multiple social media platforms and websites, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. English, French, Russian, and Arabic interpretation is provided through this system called Interprefly. I hope that you have found the token for today's event is called OSCPA PAM. If you have any challenges with interpretation, please write it in the chat. Requests to take the floor must be written in the chat, also for those who have already indicated that they wish to speak at the registration, and specifying the language of your intervention. This will make our life easier with translation, as well as your country and organization. And I will give you the floor during the debate. To facilitate a wider geographical participation and a balanced representation of each organization, we kindly ask you to register no more than one member of the delegation for intervention. And to ensure a smooth experience, I kindly ask all participants to mute their microphone when not speaking. Likewise, please unmute your microphone, of course, when you are given the floor. To facilitate the work of our interpreters, please speak clearly and slowly, not like me now. Feel free to keep your cameras on during the entire event, of course, and this is also an opportunity to see and virtually meet your colleagues. Finally, I would like to encourage all speakers during the debate to limit their intervention to 3 minutes. We have so many speakers and not so much time. So thereby, this will enable us to have a good exchange of ideas and conclude our meeting on time. Now, on the agenda, today's program looks as follows. In a moment, I will give the floor to Mr. Gennaro Migliore, the chair of the PAM, a Special Parliamentary Committee on Countering Terrorism. Then I will give the floor to Reinhold Lopatka, the chair of the OSCPA Ad hoc Committee on Terrorism, and then to Mauro Medico, the UNOCT Deputy Director and Chief of Special Projects and Innovation Branch, for their opening remarks, 5-6 minutes each. I will then over the floor to our three keynote speakers for their expert presentation, 7-8 minutes each. And subsequently, I will open the debate among interested members and for approximately an hour. After all the interventions, I will ask our keynote speakers to share some final thoughts for 5 minutes. And finally, our president, who is not yet connected now, I understand, Mr. George Tertelli, the president of the OSCPA, and Mr. Gennaro Migliori, the chair of the PAM Special Parliamentary Committee on Countering Terrorism, will deliver some short closing remarks, 3 minutes each. Now, we will close our meeting around 1800 hours Copenhagen time, so at 6 o'clock Copenhagen time. Now, I give the floor to Mr. Gennaro Migliore, Onorevole Migliore, the chair of the PAM Special Parliamentary Assembly Committee on Countering Terrorism and a member of the Italian Chamber of Deputies. Onorevole Migliore, caro Gennaro, la parola a te.
Grazie, Roberto. Thanks, everyone. And first of all, I want to bring the greetings from the president of PIM, Karim Darwish. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure and an honor for me to open this virtual parliamentary web talk on counterterrorism administered by the COVID pandemic. In my capacity as the chair of the Special Committee on Counterterrorism of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, I am very happy of the decision taken with the Parliamentary Assembly of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and with the United Nations Office on Counterterrorism to conduct such an important debate together. On behalf of the three organizations, I wish to welcome you all, and I'm also glad to see such a strong turnout as together we represent 65 parliaments of countries with interrelated security challenges, ranging from Vancouver to Vladivostok and to the Arabian Peninsula. And also I want to thank, of course, the presence of Mr. Lopakta, that is the president of the HLAG of IPU for counterterrorism. Dear colleagues, in recent months, our attention focused on the many implications of COVID-19. Within this unprecedented new reality, remaining vigilant on the evolving threat of terrorism has been a challenge for all of us. Terrorist groups have seized the opportunity presented by the pandemic to strengthen their radical propaganda, and in recent months, significant terrorist activity has been reported in different regions of the world. If a state presenting territorial terrorist group, for example, in Nigeria, Boko Haram, and in this country formulates some inadequate health policies against COVID, this reinforces community support for that group. That's the risk that we all are facing. This happens because in the case of some terrorist groups that have a base inside territorial on the model of ISIL, it's important to take in account as we have the opportunity to discuss in previous meetings that are really in the ground this kind of organization. In Iraq, after months of restructuring following the death of its leader, ISIL is mounting a resurgence with a sharp increase in attacks since last March, taking advantage of the pandemic, the domestic political crisis, and the US troops downsizing ahead of a schedule due to the COVID-19. In northeast Syria, thousands of ISIL fighters, including many foreigners, in recent months have organized 2 prison riots in attempts of a mass jailbreak, recalling us that their detention by non-state actors is not a sustainable solution and represent a real danger to our region. Many countries are still reluctant to repatriate not only ISIL terrorist fighters, but also their women and children, including orphans, held in extremely poor conditions in detention camps, often under the management of ISIL female police. Without proper prosecution, rehabilitation, and de-radicalization strategies, these people are likely to represent soon a danger of all our countries. PAM has already been able to achieve a political consensus on the issue of our delegates unanimously endorsed a proposal to establish a UN-led mission of inquiry to Syria to assist with this process, proposal that was received with great interest by the UN Security Council. The issue of ISIL terrorist prisoners is complex, as we are also facing challenges here in Europe. We have seen a pattern of terrorists turning back to violence after being released from prisons and serving their sentences. Given the fact that thousands of terrorist prisoners will be due for release in the near future, we must examine the effectiveness of the de-radicalization programs, post-prison monitoring, and halting the automatic release of prisoners without a true clearance. I know that our colleagues in the UK had to pass an emergency legislation in this regard earlier this year. This month, a man was arrested in Spain with the support of Europol for transferring money between several European and Arab countries via the Awala money transfer system to finance the return of foreign terrorist fighters from Syria to Europe. This goes to highlight that terrorists are not dormant and are using new technologies for terrorist purposes and are active across borders. To effectively track, capture, and prosecute terrorists, there is an absolute need for close cooperation between the relevant agencies of our countries. To facilitate such cooperation, our legislation needs to be in harmony and the same standards, not only on terrorism, but also on financial crimes, cybercrime, and on electronic evidence. Dear colleagues, in North Africa, the vulnerability to terrorist attacks remains high. As we have seen several incidents in Tunisia and Egypt, while at the same time the authorities are able to prevent many attacks through their counter-terrorism efforts. The situation in Libya is unique and of a grave concern. The increasing involvement of foreign actors and mercenaries in the Libyan conflict, the mass of proliferation of weapons, the large-scale human trafficking and migrant smuggling, and the impact of COVID-19 in the population, coupled to the active ISIL presence on the proximity to the many jihadist actors in Sahel, are all factors contributing to a worsening security scenario. Last but definitely not least, the Sahel area and the Central Africa belt are the most troubling region for terrorist activity today. As we have witnessed an exponential increase in number of attacks and fatalities in recent years, and worse, it could even become the ground zero for another caliphate project. The success of the jihadist movement in the Sahel region is rooted in the exploitation of local tribal conflicts by global jihadist actors and the perception of limited government legitimacy in the eyes of some population. In recent months, there have been also a number of documented atrocities committed by state-controlled forces in the region. This is a factor that adds into the growing insecurity. A perceived poor socio-economic response to the pandemic of the part of the authorities will indeed further increase the acceptance of jihadist movements as they progressively work to undermine official rule. As an example, in Mali, a Salafi jihadi group was able to disrupt this year's parliamentary election by kidnapping the candidates. Dear colleagues, despite all the challenges that we face because of COVID-19, it's clear that we must remain vigilant in the face of terrorism threat. And we have a unique platform here today to take stock of this issue and share legislative practices to highlight the critical role of parliaments and international cooperation in counter-terrorism. We have an impressive high-level panel of senior officials from the League of Arab States, of the OSCE, and the security defense sector. I would like to conclude my opening remarks here and invite my colleagues from the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly and the UN Office of Counterterrorism to further welcome you to all this meeting. Thank you for your attention.
Grazie mille, Gennaro. Grazie per le parole. I now invite Reinhold Lopatka, the chair of the OSCEPA ad hoc committee on countering terrorism, to deliver his opening remarks. Honorable Lopatka is also the chairman of the high-level group on countering terrorism in the IPU. So we could almost say a parliamentary leader in the fight against corruption, in the fight against terrorism. Reinhold, you have the floor. Reinhold, I see you are unmuted, but we cannot hear you. It looks like your microphone is unmuted, but we cannot hear you. No? Now it's unmuted, but we cannot hear you. I see it's blue, but no. Tim, you want to try to fix that, and maybe I give the floor to Mauro meanwhile?
Yes, we will try to fix it, and then...
Right. Is that okay, Reinhold? Just sign. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. Okay, so sorry for this inconvenience. I will then give the floor now first to Mauro Miedico, the UNOCT Deputy Director and Chief of Special Projects, and for his opening remarks, Mauro, and then we go to Reinhold. Mauro, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
Perfect. Good morning to everybody, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is my greatest pleasure to co-chair the parliamentary web dialogue today with you, with the PAM, the OSCE, at the occasion of the International Day of Parliamentarism. I would like to start by expressing my solidarity with all of your parliaments as we collectively confront the challenges posed by the coronavirus pandemic. This global crisis is testing all of our societies and all spheres of our lives. The United Nations Office of Counterterrorism recognizes the critical role which you all, as members of parliament, can play in preventing and countering terrorism. My office provides leadership on the United Nations counterterrorism mandates and capacity building. However, we cannot do it alone. We need strong partnership, including with parliamentary assemblies, such as with the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly and the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, who are long-lasting partners of my office. I would like to particularly express my special appreciation to Honorable Lopatka, to Honorable Migliore, as well as to the Secretary General, you, Roberto, and to Sergio Piazzi for the priority given to collaborating with the United Nations Office of Counterterrorism on preventing and countering terrorism. The crisis generated new terrorist trends and exacerbated the existing grievances and prolonged conflicts. Terrorists are taking advantage of the pandemic to further destabilize some fragile states and regions. Allow me to highlight some points that may be of relevance for your work as parliamentarians. First, the terrorist threat. There is clear evidence that organizations such as ISIL, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, and the Taliban have all increased their efforts at taking advantage from the situation caused by the pandemic. Especially alarming is the situation in Africa. For example, Reports note that attacks by terrorist groups in sub-Saharan Africa, which are affiliated to Al-Qaeda and ISIL, increased by 37% between mid-March and mid-April. Countries like Chad experienced its deadliest attack ever on 23rd March, with at least 92 soldiers killed by Boko Haram in Boma. The same terrorist organization committed atrocities in North Nigeria, killing more than 200 people just in the course of this month of June. ISIL militants also broke new grounds in addition to terrible attacks in Iraq and in Syria and Libya, with simultaneous attacks committed in Cabo Delgado, even further down in Mozambique. Second point, the propaganda. Several reports indicated that ISIL, Al-Qaeda, and their affiliates have significantly increased their online outreach to young people seeking to recruit more supporters. They have integrated the coronavirus into their propaganda, spreading also hatred and fear. The pandemic has even given a rise to a new wave of hate speech, especially from what we call right-wing or white supremacy groups, through stereotyping and stigmatization to racist and to xenophobic messaging. Terrorist organizations are also actively using the grief caused by the coronavirus to strengthen their campaign of violence, and in some countries have approached local populations affected by the crisis, even offering to provide essential services and assistance. As the burden of the pandemic spreads further and penetrates in countries, especially in Africa and in Asia, the potential for terrorist groups to continue to exploit weak points to gain support and strength will likely increase. Parliamentarians have powerful tools in their hands to counter this phenomenon, explain the reasons for extraordinary measures taken by the government, contrast hate speech, and change the perception of the public. This is really an important point, and I would like to invite you to consider holding parliamentary debates on such issues in national parliaments. Of course, my office stands ready to support you. Third point, the states of exception. As we face an unprecedented crisis, many countries have had no choice but to invoke exceptional powers, and some declared a state of emergency in an attempt to stop the virus spread. However, some countries might use counterterrorism legislation and mass digital surveillance in ways that do not necessarily comply with human rights under the pretext of the pandemic response. Such cases could in turn easily create a fertile ground for terrorists to spread more propaganda, radicalize, and recruit. Parliamentary oversight is therefore essential. Fourth, the camps. At the UN, we remain most concerned about the situation in the camps and places of detention holding suspected foreign terrorist fighters and also associated women and children in Syria, in Iraq, and elsewhere. Repatriation, especially of children, remains a matter of utmost urgency. Travel restrictions impacted humanitarian operations and forced member states to put on hold the repatriation of family members of foreign terrorist fighters. But the situations in the camps is getting worse every day, and we must be aware that they represent ticking bombs. Fifth, the victims. Victims of terrorism are a very vulnerable group. The anxiety and stress which some victims of terrorism feel during the pandemic might activate the trauma from a terrorist attacks they suffered before. The UN Secretary General called the COVID-19 outbreak a human crisis that calls for solidarity. We must continue to stay in solidarity with victims of terrorism and support them throughout with all our joint efforts. Sixth, the budget. As a result of the current health crisis, the ability of governments, intelligence, law enforcement agencies to focus on traditional priorities such as counterterrorism has been undermined. And the global shutdown already now results in pressure on states' resources and reduction of counterterrorism budget. These will definitely negatively affect national and international responses to terrorism, as well as lead to the reduction of community activities and engaging with communities that are so critical for terrorist prevention. Seventh, bioterrorism. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the structural vulnerability to any form of biological attacks, as the devastating impact on the coronavirus on healthcare infrastructure and economies may act even as an incentive for terrorist groups looking to unleash pathogens of different nations. And the current crisis has unfortunately demonstrated that we are not prepared to such possible bioterrorism attacks. Finally, it is undoubtable that the COVID-19 pandemic will continue to significantly impact international peace and security and related policy making in the long term. This is a time where multilateralism is of essence. We look forward to a continued dialogue with you to build sustained partnership on counterterrorism and preventing violent extremism priorities, policies, challenges, and constraints in your countries and your region. Promoting peace and security and building resilient communities are really our shared goals. We therefore remain fully committed to building on this important partnership. Let me close by just convening to all of you the best wishes of the Secretary General of the United Nations for the International Day of Parliamentaries. He has produced a video message that I'm most pleased to introduce. We will hear the video message of the Secretary General as Mr. Secretary General Montella introduced it either now or after the speech of Honorable Lopatka. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mauro. I think we will listen first to Mr. Lopatka's address, and then we will go to the video of UN Secretary General Gutierrez. Reynold, I hope it's working now.
Yeah, I restart again.
Yes.
It's working.
Yes. I hope it was not my presentation to you as a world leader in the fight against terrorism that scared your microphone, but go ahead.
Okay, so let me start again. Dear Roberto, Gennaro, and Mauro, distinguished guest speakers and colleagues, as the chair of the OSCEPA Ad Hoc Committee on Countering Terrorism, I would like to warmly welcome you to this important web parliamentary dialogue on countering terrorism and violent extremism amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think it is very important that we do not stop with our work. And so it is important that we work together, that we join our forces. And I'm particularly delighted to see that we have successfully joined our forces with the United Nations for counterterrorism and with the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean to address this important topic. And we highly appreciate the expertise of UNOCT, and we're inspired by your valiant efforts. As you know, the OSCEPA has been working hard to boost the contribution of parliamentarians in this field since 2017, quickly becoming a credible player in this context. And we also recognize the importance of closely monitoring terrorism trends in our neighboring regions, and in particular in North Africa, the Middle East, and the Sahel, which are traditionally impacting on the security of our own area, comprising 57 participant states and our 12 partners for cooperation. Allow me now to briefly greet our three distinguished guest speakers who will share with us their views on the impact of COVID-19 on terrorism and violent extremism in our part of the world. Ambassador Uld Ikek and Ambassador Kupchina and Dr. Marcelletti, I highly appreciate your availability to contribute to this security debate and inform our future efforts in this domain. Dear colleagues, while the pandemic has greatly affected our everyday lives, we should use this session first to explore the latest terrorism trends, second, to consolidate our network of partnerships, and hopefully conceive further targeted initiatives improving the security of our citizens. I think this is very important for our work. Naturally, COVID-19 has been keeping authorities all over the world highly occupied, shifting their attention towards fighting the pandemic. Nevertheless, terrorist groups remain active, as my colleagues Gennaro and Mauro mentioned before, and seek to exploit these challenging circumstances. The global number of terror attacks has not significantly increased since the outbreak of the pandemic. Of course, public health measures designed to contain the disease have apparently made terrorist activities more difficult in some parts of the world. However, they also seem to provide a fertile ground for terror groups to boost their online propaganda, call for new attacks, increase recruitment operations, and stigmatize minorities, and above all, disseminate false and discriminatory information. For instance, according to the International Crisis Group, ISIS has announced to its members that their global war is to go on and that they should take advantage of the situation as national and international security regimes focused elsewhere. The UN Human Rights Commissioner Michelle Bachelet has warned us of, as she called it, ticking time bomb, as jihadist terror groups will continue to use online propaganda to call for new attacks. Just imagine the panic that an attack against a hospital would generate at this critical juncture. Moreover, the EU counter-terrorism coordinator, Gilles de Kerchove, has noted that the uncertainties caused by COVID-19 could trigger dangerous dynamics and fuel violent extremism. According to his latest analysis, the pandemic is generating an increase in hate crimes, anti-Semitism, racism, and all sorts of conspiracy theories. Just to mention two examples, right-wing extremists use the health crisis to increasingly propagate hatred towards minorities and foreigners, especially in our part of the world against Asians, and spread the anti-Semitic myth of a Jewish world conspiracy. Left-wing extremists, on the other hand, blame governments for exploiting the crisis to increase their authoritarian powers and limit human rights and fundamental freedoms, including through strict surveillance programs. Dear colleagues, against this background, it is paramount that we all stand united on this symbolic day, marking the International Day of Parliamentarians, to counter terrorism and violent extremism throughout our vast regions. And Gennaro mentioned Libya and the Sahel, and Mauro, Nigeria. Regions not within OSCE, but we are directly affected what is ongoing there. And together we must ensure that all governments and parliaments retain this objective very high on their national, and we should have it on the international agendas. So we must help our societies to better understand the latest developments triggered by the global health crisis. And we must support our authorities to react accordingly, thereby protecting our citizens. Alongside our partners at the OSCE, we stand ready to play our part. And now I look forward to hearing more about these dynamics and about plausible policy countermeasures from our distinguished guests and fellow participants. And I'm really happy that we are connected with more than 30 parliaments. This shows that many colleagues are supporting us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lopatka de Reynold. So we will now watch a brief video from Antonio Gutierrez, the UN Secretary General, on the International Day of Parliamentarism. Second of patience, we're just technically trying to put it up.
You not see it? Restart it?
Team, I'd say you restarted it because we didn't hear it. We can see, maybe you started from, yep. Can you play it now from the beginning?
And did you hear it now?
No. If it's complicated, we will just move on and try later on. It's not working. Tim, I suggest that you send a clip in the chat so that members can watch it later on. We'll try to play towards the end, but I think it's better we move on. Is that okay?
Okay, perfect.
All right. So we resume the meeting. So dear colleagues, I'm now pleased to introduce our three keynote speakers whose contributions to our debate I'm confident will be invaluable. Our first speaker is Ambassador Mohammed El Amin Ould Ikek, the Assistant Secretary General and Head of the Legal Affairs Sectors of the League of Arab States. He has a PhD in Public Law and Political Science. He held several important positions in Mauritania, including former Prime Minister, Secretary General of the Presidency of the Republic, Secretary General of the Presidency of the Supreme Council of State, Chief of the Accounts Court of Mauritania, the Inspector General of the State, and Dean of the Faculty of Legal and Economic Sciences. He is also an international lawyer and an expert and lectures at a number of African and European and American universities. Ambassador Ikek, thanks again for accepting our invitation despite your busy agenda. I'm curious to learn your views on how the ongoing crisis has globally impacted terrorism and violent extremism. The floor is yours. Ambassador.
Bonjour, merci bien. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, très bien, très bien, très bien.
Vous m'entendez?
Oui, on vous entend et on vous voit très bien. Très cool.
Je suis extrêmement ravi de prendre part avec des sommités de tous bords comme vous à cette rencontre. C'est un sujet d'actualité d'importance capitale planétaire qui m'intéresse personnellement et m'interpelle doublement. Au nom de la Ligue arabe, évidemment, que je représente ici, mais aussi en tant que ressortissant d'un des pays du G5 Sahel, la Mauritanie, dont la capitale, Nouakchott, abrite en ce moment même, parallèlement à nos travaux, un sommet du G5 Sahel auquel prend part personnellement le président Macron, président français, le Premier ministre et chef du gouvernement espagnol, et par vidéoconférence le secrétaire général de l'ONU, de l'OSCE, du Conseil européen et d'autres personnalités. Vous me permettrez cependant de prononcer mon mot en arabe qui a été préparé. السيدات والسادة النواب، السادة المتابعون الكرام عبر شبكة الإنترنت، اسمحوا لي بداية أن أتقدم بالشكر إلى السيد السفير سيرجيو بيازي، الأمين العام للجمعية البرلمانية للبحر الأبيض المتوسط، للدعوة التي وجهها لي من أجل المشاركة في هذا الحوار الجاد الذي ينعقد اليوم في ظل ظروف غاية في التعقيد والحساسية يمر بها العالم العربي وسائر دول العالم. كما أتقدم بالشكر إلى ممثلي الجمعية البرلمانية للبحر الأبيض المتوسط والجمعية البرلمانية لمنظمة الأمم المتحدة للأمن والتعاون في أوروبا ومكتب الأمم المتحدة لمكافحة الإرهاب على المداخلات الهامة التي تقدموا بها، ونشارك في الحقيقة نتشارك في الحقيقة في جانب من انشغالاتها. إننا نجمع جميعنا في القول أن الإرهاب والتطرف يشكلان تهديدا مستمرا للسلم والأمن الدوليين والاستقرار في المجتمع وفي جميع الدول والمجتمعات. وأود أن أضيف هنا أن الإرهاب وكورونا باتا يجتمعان في كون كلاهما فيروس خطير يهدد الأمن والاستقرار من حولنا جميعا بالمفهوم الواسع للأمن الجماعي. ولا بد أن تتضافر جميع الجهود العربية والإقليمية والدولية من أجل مكافحتهما والقضاء عليهم. إن الدول العربية بالوقت الراهن تمر بأوضاع أمنية استثنائية وتهديدات تمس الأمن القومي لم يسبق لمجتمعاتنا العربية أو المتوسطية أن اختبرتها، وهو ما بات يضع على كاهل أجهزة الأمن وإنفاذ القانون في الدول العربية أعباء مضاعفة ازدادت وتيرتها مع تفشي فيروس كورونا. وأود في سياق مداخلتي أن أتناول محورين أساسيين فيما يتصل بمحاربة الإرهاب في العالم العربي في ظل تفشي جائحة كورونا وما بعدها. ويتناول المحور الأول الجهود التي بذلتها الدول العربية في مكافحة فيروس الإرهاب والتطرف بشكل متوازي مع الجهود والأعباء التي تتحملها الدول لمواجهة فيروس كورونا. أما المحور الثاني فيتناول أهم التحديات المستقبلية التي تواجه الجهود الدولية في مكافحة الإرهاب خلال انتشار جائحة كورونا وما بعدها. أولاً، الجهود العربية الراهنة الرامية لمكافحة الإرهاب. تقوم الدول العربية بتكثيف جهودها الرامية إلى مكافحة فيروس كورونا وفيروس الإرهاب والتطرف بشكل متوازي، حيث تواصل الدول العربية تنفيذ التزاماتها في إطار الاتفاقيات العربية والدولية التي وقعت عليها. كما تواصل ميدانيا التصدي للعمليات التي تنفذها المنظمات الإرهابية والعمل على إفشالها، ومن ضمنها تلك الرامية إلى محاولة نقل وباء كورونا إلى الوحدات الأمنية أو الهيئات الطبية. وهنا أؤكد على أن جامعة الدول العربية تولي مكافحة الإرهاب والتطرف والذي يهدد أمن الدول العربية واستقرارها ويشكل خطراً على مصالحها الحيوية اهتماماً واسعاً سواء على المستوى العربي أو الإقليمي أو الدولي. توصلت الجهود العربية منذ عام 1998 إلى إبرام الاتفاقية العربية لمكافحة الإرهاب، والتي حددت تعريفا شاملا لظاهرة الإرهاب، وأسس التعاون العربي لمحاربته وما يرافقه من تدابير لمنع الجرائم الإرهابية وسبل مكافحتها. وقد كثفت بعدها الجامعة العربية جهودها لإعداد الاتفاقيات العربية لمكافحة جرائم تقنية المعلومات، لمكافحة استخدام الإنترنت لأغراض إرهابية، والاتفاقية العربية لمكافحة غسل الأموال وتمويل الإرهاب. وقد اعتمد مجلس وزراء الداخلية والعدل العرب اتفاقيتين في عام 2010. وتستمر الدول العربية بالعمل من أجل تنسيق المزيد من الجهود للتصدي لظاهرة المقاتلين الإرهابيين العائدين من مناطق النزاع وعائلاتهم، من خلال وضع آليات شاملة تتوافق مع الاتفاقية العربية لمكافحة الإرهاب والقرارات الصادرة عن مجلس جامعة الدول العربية على مستوى القمة، على المستوى الوزاري، وقرارات مجلسي وزراء العدل والداخلية العرب. تشدد الدول العربية على حتمية الشمولية بالرؤية في التعامل مع الإرهاب دون انتقائية أو تمييز، وتحذر من الرابط القوي الذي يجمع التنظيمات الإرهابية المختلفة في المنطقة والتي تتبنى الإيديولوجية المتطرفة وتتعاون فيما بينها. كما تواصل الدول العربية بتحديث قاعدة البيانات الخاصة بالمقاتلين الإرهابيين الأجانب والقائمة العربية الموحدة للتنظيمات والكيانات الإرهابية، القائمة السوداء لمنفذي ومدبري وممولي الأعمال الإرهابية. وتشارك الدول العربية أيضا بالجهود الدولية الرامية إلى مكافحة الإرهاب وتنفيذ القرارات الصادرة عن مجلس الأمن والجمعية العامة للأمم المتحدة، وكذلك التنفيذ المتكامل لاستراتيجية الأمم المتحدة العالمية لمكافحة الإرهاب. وتستمر الدول العربية في بذل الجهد اللازم مع كافة الجهات سواء عربية أو دولية من أجل مواجهة التهديدات التي يشكلها المقاتلون الإرهابيون، بما في ذلك التصدي لظاهرة المقاتلين الإرهابيين العائدين من مناطق النزاع والمتنقلون، ومحاربة الأسباب المغذية للتطرف، وتجنيد المقاتلين الإرهابيين، إلى جانب العمل على القضاء على مسببات الإرهاب وتجفيف منابعه واجتزازه من جذوره. وأخيرا لا بد من الإشادة بما حققته الدول الأعضاء انتصارات واسعة ضد الإرهاب، وما توصلت إليه من إنجازات لإلحاق الهزيمة بالمنظمة الإرهابية، المنظمات الإرهابية والجماعات المتطرفة، ودعوتها لمواصلة هذه الجهود بما يكفل إنهاء الإرهاب والتطرف بجميع مظاهره وصوره. ثانيا، رؤية الجامعة العربية للتحديات المستقبلية في مكافحة الإرهاب خلال جائحة كورونا وما بعدها. إن جامعة الدول العربية تؤكد على ضرورة أن تتضافر الجهود الإقليمية والأممية في مكافحة الإرهاب بشكل أكثر فاعلية في مرحلة ما بعد كورونا، كما تشير إلى أن هناك تحديات رئيسية يجب على المجتمع الدولي والنظام متعدد الأطراف أن يوليها الاهتمام اللازم خلال المرحلة القادمة، وأهمها ما يلي: الإرهاب البيولوجي. إن تفشي فيروس كورونا وما شكله من تهديد للأمن الصحي العالمي يدفعنا إلى المضي قدما في تنسيق الجهود الرامية إلى التصدي لإرهاب الدمار الشامل، والذي قد تلجأ إليه الجماعات الإرهابية التي تتبنى استخدام أسلحة الدمار الشامل، وخاصة استخدام الأسلحة البيولوجية والمشعة والنووية من أجل تحقيق أهداف إرهابية تهدد السلم والأمن الدوليين وتعرض الاستقرار والأمن العالمي للخطر. وفي هذا السياق يبقى من الضروري تعزيز تعاون الدول العربية من المنظمات والوكالات الدولية للاستفادة من برامج المساعدة التقنية المتاحة لبناء القدرات الوطنية لمواجهة خطر حيازة الإرهابيين لأسلحة الدمار الشامل ومكوناتها، وتعزيز أمن المطارات والموانئ والحدود. ثانيا، بناء السلام وتسوية النزاعات. إن تجارب مكافحة الإرهاب بأعدادها المختلفة تجعل لزاما علينا تعلم الدروس المستفادة من التجارب السابقة والتي تقول بأنه لا يمكن بلوغ الأمن المطلق وما يمكن أن نسميه الدرجة الصفر من الأمان إلا من خلال بناء السلام، وذلك عبر التسوية السياسية للأزمات بشكل عادل ومستدام. لقد باتت تنظيمات الإرهابية تجد في الصراعات المسلحة في دول عربية مثل ليبيا والعراق واليمن وسوريا أرضا خصبة لعملياتها المختلفة، وهو ما يؤكد أن استمرار ترحيل الخيار السياسي والتسوية السياسية للأزمات من شأنه أن يزيد من انتشار هذه التنظيمات. وتؤكد الدول العربية في هذا السياق على أن التدابير والحلول العسكرية والأمنية وحدها غير كافية لإلحاق الهزيمة بالإرهاب، وضرورة وضع استراتيجية شاملة متعددة الأبعاد لمكافحة الإرهاب ومنع وقوعه، تتضمن الأبعاد السياسية والاجتماعية والقانونية والثقافية والإعلامية، وذلك وفقا لقرارات مجلس جامع الدول العربية الصادرة بهذا الشأن. خطر التدخلات الخارجية في المنطقة العربية ونقل المقاتلين الإرهابيين. إن الدول العربية تشدد على رفضها الكامل التدخلات الخارجية التي تسهم في انتقال المقاتلين المتطرفين الإرهابيين الأجانب إلى ليبيا، وما رافق ذلك من انتهاك للقرارات الدولية المعنية بحظر توريد السلاح، وهو ما يهدد أمن الدول الجوار الليبي ويجعلها عرضة لأن تقع في أيدي التنظيمات الإرهابية. خطر استمرار إسرائيل باعتبارها السلطة القائمة بالاحتلال بانتهاك الحقوق الفلسطينية المشروعة. إن سلوك إسرائيل العدائي باعتبارها السلطة القائمة بالاحتلال وما خلفه هذا من ظلم واضطهاد يجور على الحقوق الأساسية للشروع للشعب الفلسطيني، ويمثل هذا السلوك انتهاك للاتفاقيات الدولية وقرارات مجلس الأمن والمواثيق الدولية، وآخرها الإعلان عن خططها لضم أراضي فلسطينية والتوسع الاستيطاني الاستعماري. يزيد من حدة التوتر المحتقن منذ فترات طويلة في ظل غياب الحوار من أجل توصيلات تسوية سياسية عادلة. إن الظلم والاضطهاد الذي تمارسه السلطة القائمة بالاحتلال في فلسطين يجهض فرص السلام ويجور على حق المقاومة الشرعية بوجه آلة العنف والاضطهاد الإسرائيلي. إننا نؤمن بالمنظمة العربية أن الأمن وحسن الجوار والتسوية العادلة المستدامة للقضية الفلسطينية بمواجهة آلة العنف الإسرائيلي من شأنه أن يضعوا أسسا للاستقرار ومن ثم التنمية في المنطقة، وهي مسؤولية يتشارك فيها المجتمع الدولي أجمعه. مواصلة تشديد المواجهة القانونية للإرهاب. تؤمن الدول العربية بضرورة مواصلة تكثيف الجهود الدولية الرامية إلى وضع تعريف واضح لظاهرة الإرهاب ورفع كل غموض يشوبه، والتواصل إلى صياغة اتفاقية شاملة تتعلق بمكافحة الإرهاب الدولي تكون أداة للتصدي للإرهاب، وبما يسمح بالانطلاق إلى تحديد الأساليب القانونية لمواجهته والوقوف بحزم في التصدي له. كما تؤكد على ضرورة المضي قدما بتعزيز التعاون الدولي الرامي إلى اتخاذ التدابير اللازمة لمعالجة ظروف الاستشار الإرهاب ومحاربة الأسباب المؤدية للتطرف وتجنيد المقاتلين الإرهابيين. وهنا لا بد من إعادة التأكيد على أهمية تعزيز التعاون الدولي لمواجهة التهديدات التي تشكلها المقاتلون الإرهابيون بما فيهم العائدون والمنتقلون في مجالات تبادل المعلومات وأمن الحدود والتحقيقات والمساعدة القضائية المتبادلة، واتخاذ التدابير اللازمة لمواكبة الظروف المؤدية إلى انتشار الإرهاب بما في ذلك منع التحريض على ارتكاب الأعمال الإرهابية ومحاربة الأسباب المغذية للتطرف وتجذيب المقاتلين الإرهابيين. وأخيرا تدعو الجامعة العربية إلى ضرورة تكثيف الجهود وتعزيز التنسيق مع المجتمع الدولي ومنظماته الدولية والإقليمية في مواجهة الإرهاب، وعلى نحو خاص في مجالات تجفيف منابع تمويل الإرهاب وظاهرة سفر الإرهابيين الأجانب، والعمل على الحد من تنقلهم بين الدول وإيجاد ملاذات آمنة لهم، واتخاذ الإجراءات القانونية اللازمة التي تحول دون استخدام الإرهابيين لتكنولوجيا المعلومات والاتصالات، وخاصة في سياق انتشار جائحة كورونا، وهو ما قد يشكل تهديدا للسلم والأمن الدوليين في مناطق مختلفة من العالم. شكرا جزيلا والسلام عليكم.
Thank you very much. And now I will give the floor to a dear friend of ours, well known to the OSCE, Ambassador Elena Kupchina. She is the OSCE coordinator of activities to address transnational threats, and she assists the OSCE participating states in the implementation of the OSCE commitments in the areas of countering terrorism and prevention of terrorism and violent extremism. Dr. Kupchina was the ambassador of the Republic of Belarus to Austria and Slovenia before, as well as the permanent representative to the international organizations in Vienna and to the OSCE. In her 20-year-long diplomatic career, Elena was also Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs of Belarus and Ambassador of Belarus to Hungary and Slovenia. Ambassador Kupchina, we already enjoyed an excellent cooperation with your department, and of course I look forward to strengthening our cooperation with you. So I look forward to hearing your remarks here, and then we will have time for debate. Elena, the floor is yours.
Thank you very, very much, dear Secretary General, dear Roberto, Excellencies, distinguished members of the Parliament, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to address you today on the occasion of the International Day of Parliamentarism. And I would like to wholeheartedly thank the organizers of this event for their kind invitation. I would like to take this opportunity to stress the importance of your support as parliamentarians on our work to counter violent extremism and terrorism in the OSCE region. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the threat of violent extremist movements and terrorist organizations of a broad range of ideologies, from violent Islamist groups to violent far-right organizations. With the closure of many businesses due to lockdown measures, a general economic recession is heavily affecting our societies. In some regions, healthcare providers and essential workers have reached the limits of their capacities. Not only is the virus a destabilizing factor on its own, but violent extremist movements and terrorist organizations have shown intent to capitalize on the vulnerability, fear, and uncertainty emerging from this situation. They have made use of the global state of emergency to advance their objectives, galvanize recruits, and promote hatred and violent actions. Many violent extremist networks have reached out to the online space by actively promoting conspiracy theories around the inception of the COVID-19 crisis. Attempting to undermine trust in governments, violent extremist groups call on fear and xenophobia in order to spread hateful messages. Some groups, in particular from violent right wing, accelerated their efforts in laying blame on minority groups, including migrants, for the spread of the disease. We have increased our focus on right-wing violent extremism and are working closely with ODIHR in exploring the intersection of counterterrorism and hate crime policies and frameworks. Analysts are observing a rise in online hate speech, whilst at the same time, opportunities for violent extremist groups to recruit vulnerable individuals through online platforms increases. During the lockdown, many individuals of various age groups and backgrounds spent an enormous amount of time online. Isolation and fear increase human vulnerability and create fertile grounds for misinformation and disinformation that may target as victims specific social groups and encourage violent hate crimes. Cyber criminals have also been exploiting the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic to their advantage, seeking financial gains by sending phishing emails, ransomware attacks, financial fraud, and selling counterfeit goods in online marketplaces. Terrorists are quick in exploiting new technological opportunities to circumvent control mechanisms. The transnational nature of online crimes and terrorist use of the internet require closer collaboration between relevant state agencies and the private sector like internet and communication service providers, in order to secure electronic evidence, which is critical in preventing terrorist crimes, investigating and bringing to justice those who seek to undermine the rule of law. We will support participating states in equipping criminal justice practitioners with the necessary methods and skills to access electronic evidence in a human rights compliant way. I would like to reinforce my message that the respect for human rights is and must be a cornerstone and unchangeable criteria in all areas of our work. It is the violations of fundamental freedoms that contribute to grievances, which then make individuals vulnerable to recruitment into violent groups. There is a growing concern that terrorists may develop new operational capacities and targets in response to the changing security environment, presenting an increased risk to soft targets and critical infrastructure. Potential threats are disruptive and destructive attacks against critical health institutions. Terrorist networks may also focus on new targets, such as hospitals and food distribution centers, which are currently more crowded than other public places. In some cases, extremist groups have called for the weaponization of the illness and deliberate attacks on minorities and police. However, the viability of applying the virus as a bioweapon is unclear, and more data is needed before it is feasible to analyze whether COVID itself might become part of a new form of violence. While the public health crisis is still unfolding, we at the OSCE are carefully monitoring the evolving situation and adapting our activities in view of ongoing travel restrictions and other safety measures. In this vein, between June and July, the Action Against Terrorist Unit of the Transnational Threats Department is delivering 15 online capacity building activities on preventing violent extremism and radicalization that lead to terrorism. Also on the topics of right-wing violent extremism and hate crimes, countering financing of terrorism, countering terrorist use of the internet, and rule of law and criminal justice response. The OSCE has an important role to play as a promoter of an integrated whole of society approach to violent extremism. In addition to helping support accountable and proportionate government response to violent threats, engaging civil society, educators, the media, the community and family members is crucial to preventing these threats, especially in uncertain times. Governments and civil society leaders need to continue working together to present facts and counter polarizing forces in societies and local communities. Our online activities include webinars, such as those delivered under the Leaders Against Violent Extremism initiative, and e-learning programs. In May this year, my department launched an e-learning course on preventing and countering the use of the internet for terrorist purposes in English and Russian languages. These online activities, necessary during this pandemic, do not replace all that we do to build capacity. We are striving to build hybrid, or maybe better to say blended program models that allow us to effectively transfer the skills and knowledge needed online, while still finding opportunities for in-person interaction, critical to building relationship and political will. In addition, I would like to emphasize the importance of the partnerships we build upon for the best outcome possible. COVID-19 is a transnational security threat that demands coordination and cooperation. In this particular crisis, we are more than grateful to have found reliable long-term partnerships with international bodies, such as the United Nations, European Union, Interpol, and of course, the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. I would like to recall the biennial action plan for 2019-2021 that the OSCE signed with UNOCT in New York on the 23rd of September last year in order to strengthen cooperation in addressing joint global challenges related to preventing and countering terrorism. In February this year, the OSCE and UNOCT organized a joint regional high-level conference on foreign terrorist fighters addressing current challenges, together with the government of Switzerland and in cooperation with the OSCE Albanian chairmanship. As a part of the series of regional conferences announced at the United Nations 2018 high-level conference of heads of counterterrorism agencies in New York. The outcomes of this conference will be presented at the UNOCT's upcoming virtual counterterrorism week this year, actually taking place next week. We are also working on advancing our cooperation with Vienna-based organizations. First of all, for example, through a new joint action plan with UNODC. Crises, as challenging as they may be, prove that the fundamental necessity of togetherness, partnerships, and collective responses as the only way to secure sustainable results and build more resilience. And I'm confident that our department's cooperation with the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly will grow even stronger, and together we will contribute in a tangible manner to peace and security in the OSCE area. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Cucina, Lena. And now I move to Professor Andrea Margelletti, the chairman of the Center for International Studies, who has been the strategic advisor to the Italian Minister of Defense from 2012 to 2018. And in 2012, 13, and 14, Professor Margelletti has been invited to speak at the 4th Committee of Special Policies and Decolonization of the General Assembly of the United Nations about the security situation in North Africa and in the Sahel region. He teaches at several national institutions and advises various national and international organizations on issues related to international politics, security and defense, intelligence, and terrorism. Professor Margelletti, I'm keen to listen to your presentation and understand the ways in which the ongoing crisis impacts the functioning of different terrorist groups and how these interrelate in the region of the OSCE and PAM. Lei la parola, Professor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Montella. Let me tell you that is absolutely privilege for me to speak at such important audience. So I tried not to commit too many mistakes. First of all, I think that we have to make some differences between a terrorist group in Europe and terrorist group in the southern part of the Mediterranean Sea. In Europe, the fuel of the terrorist groups, of jihadi terrorist groups, is made by propaganda, by fake news, by internet connection. The problem in Europe is made mainly, for the vast majority, by radicalization problem. People that was born in UK, in Germany, French, in Italy, but doesn't feel any more part of a feeling about the country, doesn't feel Italian anymore or European anymore, and thinks that the real umbrella under which he had to stay is a wrong perception of Islam. If I may add, Mr. Montella, let me stress that Islam, like every main religious, is a religion of peace, has nothing to do with terrorism. People that use Islam as a tool for terror are people that are not true believers. That is at least is my feeling, and is the policy of the Center for International Studies, my institute. So in Europe, we have a family connection or lone wolf that is very good, because the control that we have through the intelligence, through the security services, through counter-terrorist organization that we have in Europe is well done. Let me add, moreover, that thanks to NATO and the EU, we have a long-standing connection between intelligence agencies all over Europe. In the past, the threat was red tanks across the Fulda Gap. Nowadays, the threats are also terrorist organization, but the connection between intelligence agencies is still very, very strong, and there is a continued work about liaison officer between one side and the other side of the Alps. The real problem is Africa, for my perception, and especially after COVID. Why? COVID-19 is an incredible opportunity for jihadi groups. Why? There is a sort of, I may say, fil rouge in terms of perception in the people between the mafia organization and jihadi groups. In which sense, I'm telling as an Italian, and I'm sure that Mr. Montella could at least forgive me. If you provide food, if you provide jobs, if you provide the basic needs, what are you giving is in reality dignity to the people. So the COVID is making a mess in Africa, and we will have 100,000 people with jobs lost and with a very, very fragile situation. If we don't have strong governance of credibility that could provide the basic needs for the people, jihadi groups are ready to fill this gap. And generally speaking, people want to survive first. So if someone else give you food, jobs, housing, and so on, opportunities, let me tell Mr. Montella, opportunities, and also distinguished guest, these groups became the center of the gravity, like we say in military terms, from a common citizen. Because what we have to focus about is not about to win against the jihadi organization, but not to lose against the people. Because that's the key of the Italian politics. I want to stress a point. In a geopolitical issue, geography still counts very much. So the experience of being here or being there still counts a lot. So, for example, we had since 9/11 used a lot kinetic operation, I must say brute force. We killed thousands or maybe 10,000s of terrorists, but the situation isn't improved. Why? Because we have a very short-term strategy. We need a long-term strategy. And in this strategy, to put the people in the middle of the strategy. We couldn't win without the support of the people, without the support of the customers. So if we think, and it's a sort of doctrine, we call in Italy the Guerini doctrine, the doctrine of the Minister of Defense, to use every tools that you have at disposal, but to consider that till now we had tables with 3 legs: security, governance, and let me say economy. But as you know, a table with 3 legs is quite unstable, at least for my experience. So we need a 4 legs. This is the key of a Guerini doctrine: civil action. Unless we don't put on board the society, and we support to create a society, and the cornerstone is the parliamentary all over the world. Unless we don't have a society, civil society, that give a dream, not a nightmare, but give a dream to the people. And the people said, oh, now I could listen another voice. Unless we don't speak with loud voice, we give the floor to the terrorist organization. So to fight the terrorism is for us very small part. I spent the vast majority of my life dealing with jihadi organization in very complicated, Mr. Montella, places of the world, but complicated places, but run by wonderful people. Unless we don't use the feeling of our capabilities, of our soul, to teach to the people not how to act, but to teach that there is another road, another path, to give choices. Unless we don't give choices, unless we say you have to choose between an army approach or a very, very, very long-term diplomacy approach. People, Mr. Montella, needs solution now because people have problems at home now. And if we don't consider this point, the jihadi groups of today, with the support of the people, will become the populist party in Africa of tomorrow. That is something that we couldn't afford, not because we don't like the populist parties, but because we know that the jihadi groups wants to have the people under their control, not inside the control. So the key for me, and the key that Italy, and I'm sure that Honorable Gennaro Migliore, that is absolutely well known in Italy for his wisdom, could support, is that until now we only use the tools that we like to use, and not the tools that we had to use. If we don't change paradigm, we will continue to fight the war that we know how to fight, but it's not the war that we have to fight. Thank you very much.
Grazie mille, caro Andrea, Professor Mirgioletti. Thank you to all the three guest speakers. This was extremely interesting, and we are doing very well with time. We now have 1 hour and 15 minutes, more or less, for our debate. And as I always say, this is a parliamentary web dialogue, so we need to hear also the voice of parliamentarians. So the first the floor is the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly Vice President and the head of the Migration Committee from Sweden, Margareta Söderfeldt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General Roberto Montella. And I would also like to say thank you to our distinguished speakers. It has been very interesting to take part of your presentations, and dear colleagues. I will raise a question that I hope you can respond to later. And it's about the return of the members of ISIL. It's an issue that I, as parliamentarian, work with almost every day. I could see that quite a lot of former members of ISIL, or maybe still members but not active, return to Sweden, to other countries in Europe. Some of them return not known, or some of them use the COVID-19 to go through and try to sneak around and arrive at the goal. And of course, when they come and we know about them, they will take in front of the court for a judgment. But some are not found, not found guilty, or some doesn't target. And this means that they could continue with their propaganda and try to convince others to join the ISIL or another terrorist organization. This is, of course, a huge problem. We do also have another issue, and it's the children who were born in the ISIL camps. And they arrive back home to Sweden. Maybe they are Swedish citizens? Maybe not. If there are citizens, of course, they have the right to be in Sweden. But if they are not, maybe they try to get their parents with them. It's in line with the international agreement. But this is a huge problem for most European countries. It's here today. And of course, there is a need, as the speakers have said earlier, with international cooperation, because this is a challenge for all countries in Europe. And I would like to have some comments from our distinguished speaker, how you see this very problematic issue and what you see that we can do as parliamentarians, because I think it's very important that we act in the way to limit the threat from terrorism, and we shouldn't build new terrorism or give any, food or possibility for terrorism to grow. And all these issues are linked together. So I stopped here, but I look forward for your comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And of course, the three guest speakers will have an opportunity at the end of the debate to answer to these questions. Maintenant, je donne la parole à Monsieur Abdelmajid Denouni, docteur en économie, vice-président de l'Assemblée parlementaire de la Méditerranée de l'Algérie. Vous avez la parole. On ne vous entend pas? Oui. Monsieur Denis, on a peut-être un problème de audio, on vous entend avec un écho. C'est bon maintenant, c'est bon maintenant. On entend une musique. On peut essayer plus tard. I think we move on to the next speaker and we try to fix this audio problem in Algeria. So the next speaker is Mr. Tural Ganiliev, OSCEPA from Azerbaijan.
Yes, thank you very much, dear Mr. Secretary General, dear friends and colleagues. I would like to thank you for organizing this webinar of this important topic, countering terrorism and violent extremism amidst the COVID pandemic. The overwhelming focus on COVID crisis may temporarily reduce the media attention given to terrorist activities, potentially reducing their wider impact. Extremist groups are aware of the potential to benefit from the disruptions caused by the crisis. Terrorism is a serious threat to international peace and security and to the enjoyment of human rights, fundamental freedoms and democracy, political independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the social and economic development of all states. Azerbaijan strongly condemns terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. We consider that all terrorist acts constitute serious crimes and must be condemned and prosecuted. All terrorist acts are unjustifiable regardless of their motivation. Terrorism has a changing nature and a character even in difficult times. In many instances, it is inseparably linked to aggressive separatism, extremism, and organized crime. Areas affected by armed conflicts, especially territories under the foreign military occupation, create conditions conducive to networking between terrorists and those acting in such territories. The Republic of Azerbaijan is one of the states which has suffered heavily from terrorism. Since the early years of our independence, the restoration of our independence in 1991, Azerbaijan has suffered 373 terrorist attacks, which have resulted in more than 1,500 dead, 1,800 wounded, and considerable material damage to the state and to the people. The occupied territories of Azerbaijan represent a source of grave concern in terms of the linkage among terrorism, extremism, and organized crime, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and illicit supply of arms. Armenia also targeted the civilians far beyond the conflict zone, for example, by masterminding terrorist attacks against public transport and critical infrastructure, such as the bomb explosions in the Baku metro in 1994. We still encounter statements openly made endorsing certain terrorist acts as a legitimate military tactic, including the targeting of civilian infrastructure, especially Azerbaijan's water reservoir dams and oil pipeline networks. It is appalling, of course, to see some international terrorist organizations and their representatives are being introduced as heroes, and even some monuments being erected after their name. I would like to note that Azerbaijan has always actively participated in international fight against terrorism. To that end, we cooperate with the UN, relevant regional organizations, and countries. In the UN framework, Azerbaijan actively cooperates with the United Nations Security Council Counter-Terrorism Committee and periodically submits national reports on the subject matter. We must unite against terrorism, occupation, and ethnic cleansing for the sake of a safer Caucasus region in the doorstep of Europe. Azerbaijanis and Armenians can peacefully coexist in the Nagorno-Karabakh region of Azerbaijan. This is how we can turn our region to a secure neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much also for sticking with the timing. Shall we try again with Alger, Monsieur Denouni?
Oui.
Oui, ça marche.
C'est bon?
Oui.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سيد الرئيس، زملائي البرلمانيين، أيها الحضور الكرام، اجتماع اليوم من الجمعية البرلمانية للمتوسط الذي ينعقد في ظروف خاصة هدفه دراسة الوضع الخاص لمحاربة الإرهاب في وباء كورونا المنتشر في مناطق مختلفة من دول العالم والبحر الأبيض المتوسط وإفريقيا وغيرها. وفي الأشهر الأخيرة اتجهت انتباه الحكومات والبرلمانات حول العالم نحو معالجة المخاطر الصحية والآثار الاجتماعية والاقتصادية التي تسبب فيها جائحة كورونا. وفي إطار هذا الواقع غير مسبوق دعت الوكالات ذات الصلة إلى أهمية التزام اليقظة والحذر في مواجهة التهديد المتزايد للإرهاب. لقد انتهزت الجماعات الإرهابية المتطرفة الفرصة التي أتاحتها الجائحة لتعزيز الدعاية لأفكارهم الإرهابية. وفي الأشهر الأخيرة تم رصد نشاط إرهابي كبير في مناطق مختلفة في جميع أنحاء العالم. الوضع في مناطق شمال إفريقيا وليبيا خاصة ودول الساحل يهمنا بدرجة أولى. لاحظنا في هذه المدة الأخيرة تنقلات وعمليات إرهابية مختلفة في شمال مالي ودول الساحل، والإرهاب في هذه الفترة ينتهز جائحة كورونا لضرب هذه المناطق. ملاحظة إذا سمحتم أصحح ما قاله السيد ممثل المكتب الدولي للأمم المتحدة للأمن والإرهاب. هناك عملية إرهابية في شمال مالي تهدفت 200 شخص وليس في شمال الجزائر، يعني هذا مهم جدا. واصل في كل المناسبات كانت كنا دقيقة نقص الخطر في مثل هذه اللقاءات على خطورة الإرهاب على منطقتنا بصفة عامة. واقترحنا تعاون وتنسيق دولي فعال بحسن النية، أقول هذا بحسن النية، لمحاربة هذا الخطر الإرهابي وخاصة وضع مخطط تنموي لمناطق دول الساحل. اشتد الصراع المحلي في ليبيا والمتمركز في الجزء الشمالي من البلاد منذ بداية الوباء العالمي، وأدى الفراغ الأمني الذي خلفته سنوات من اضطرابات إلى خلق جو ملائم لتنظيم داعش في بلاد ليبيا. هناك هجمات منظمة ينفذها إرهابيين منتظمون إلى تنظيم داعش خاصة في جنوب ليبيا. وإن التدخل متزايد للقوات الأجنبية والمرتزقة في الصراع الليبي والانتشار جماعي للأسلحة والاتجار بالبشر وتهريب المهاجرين في نطاق واسع في ليبيا، وتأثير جائحة كورونا على السكان إلى جانب وجود داعش القوي في منطقة الساحل، كلها عوامل تساهم في تفاقم السيناريو الأمني في ليبيا. إن هذا الوضع يشكل مصدر قلق كبير ويمثل تهديدا متطورا لشمال افريقيا واوروبا. وموقف الجزائر من الصراع الليبي واضح: عدم التدخل الاجنبي والحوار الليبي بدون اقصاء. واكدت الجزائر على خطوره الوضع في ليبيا على كل دول المنطقه واوروبا، فعلى جميع التحلي بالحكمه واليقظه في هذه القضيه، فلا سلم في المنطقة بدون حل المشكل الليبي بطريقة سلمية وسياسية والحوار الكامل، والتركيز على عدم تدخل الدول الأجنبية في هذا الصراع، والتعاون أقول بحسن نية لكثير من الدول. وهذا حسن نية مهمة جدا لمصلحة ليبيا ومصلحة كل الدول المنطقة ككل. ولا حتى دولة في مأمن من الإرهاب عن الإرهاب إلا هذا الأخير بدون جنسية، ويهدد كل الدول حتى تلك التي تمول الإرهاب هي مهددة بالإرهاب، لأن كما قلت سابقا الإرهاب ليس له دين ودولة وجنسية. وفي الأخير نتمنى من الدول العربية أكثر صرامة وتنسيق بحسن نية في مكافحة الإرهاب. وأهنئ وأشكر كل ما قاموا على نجاح هذه الندوة من أجل مكافحة الإرهاب. وأعتقد أن الجمعية البرلمانية المتوسط بكل أفرادها أن الإرهاب خطر ويجب محاربته على كل المستويات. شكرا والسلام عليكم.
Shukran. Before the next speaker, I just want to bring your attention to the fact that President Tsereteli has now joined our meeting, and he will give some closing remarks at the end of this meeting. Welcome, President Tsereteli. I now give the floor to Mr. Uzi Doyan, the head of delegation of Israel and also vice president of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. You have the floor, sir. Mr. Doyan? If you don't hear me, maybe we'll revert back to you. So then we move on, and I give the floor to Mr. Kamil Aydin from the Turkey delegation, member of the Countering Terrorism Committee in the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Mr. Aydin, you have the floor. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chair. Hello to everybody else, and I would like to thank the three distinguished speakers for their illuminating knowledge about the issues, current issues. And I would like to start with a brief information about the topic, and then I would like to ask a question if you let me ask. And now, you see, we are having COVID-19 pandemic currently, and of course, COVID-19 has taught us many things. That's why we start stating that the world will never be the same. Among these lessons, one comes to my mind is that globalization means at the same time to share good and bad, joy and misery together. Now we are fighting against a worldwide pandemic, and more or less, we are taking the same precautionary measures, briefly known as hygiene, mask, and social distancing, collectively decided by experts all around the world. Why I am giving this example? Because this is very relevant to our issues now we are trying to talk about. Setting out from this concrete, tragic, unseen pandemic, we should take lesson and behave in the same way collectively against. Why? Because terrorism is a global issue anyway, like pandemic. And if we try to behave in conformity with each other collectively to combat against it, I think we can manage. Otherwise, honestly, we can easily have many problems. And then, because it is like a pandemic, I metaphorically speaking, I am trying, to draw your attention by giving metaphorical examples. Otherwise, terrorism is infectious, and it catches anybody else. It infects any particular country all around the world, as the case is now like this. At the end of this, my brief information about the issues, I would like to thank the Italian speaker, Andrea Marghelletti. If my pronunciation is not good, please forgive me. He says he draws a particular attention to a particular, misconception. Honestly, when we try to sometimes to name terrorism, to label it, sometimes we are apt to making mistakes. Saying, for example, Islamic terrorism. Honestly, this is not the language which is very proper. If we can try to affiliate terrorism, because terrorism is very negative, and terrorism should be honestly removed from our language even, because killing people is nothing acceptable anyway. And if we can talk about Islamic terrorism, honestly, this can give way to ISIS or Daesh, to use the other way around. There is no connection between the pure religious tenets, principles, and of course terrorism. So there is no Christian terrorism, there is no Jewish terrorism, there is no Hindu terrorism, as well as there is no Islamic terrorism. Of course, some terrorist groups can name their ideas in conformity with any kind of religious affinities or principles. That's why for his humble contribution to this terminological misconception, I would like to thank Mr. Marghelletti. And I would like to ask a very brief question to him. Please, he talked about three dimensions, three pillars of combating terrorism: civil society, governance, economy, and security. Can he elaborate a bit more about these three dimensions? Thank you. Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you very much, dear Camille. Thank you also for being brief. Now I give the floor to the representative of Morocco from the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, Mr. Haman Chokran. You have the floor.
مساء الخير. مساء الخير السيد الرئيس، الزميلات والزملاء. لن أكرر ما تفضلت به المداخلات السابقة، لكن سأتناول الموضوع من خلال ما طرح في هذا اللقاء من الأثر ديال أثر جائحة كوفيد-19 على قدرة الدول على مواجهة الإرهاب، وعلى ما يطرحه الوضع الحالي من إكراهات قد تساعد على انتشار الإرهاب عبر العالم. كما تعلمون الإرهاب ينتشر في اللحظات أو في الأوقات التي فيها إصرار. واليوم وارتباطا بوباء كوفيد-19 وتداعياته الاقتصادية والاجتماعية، وما يمكن أن ينتج عن ذلك من غياب الاستقرار والأمن الاجتماعي بعدد من الدول المتضررة، سيكون من اللازم على الحكومات وكذلك على البرلمانات التفكير في إيجاد حلول مستعجلة من أجل عدم سقوط بعض الدول التي تعاني بشدة من آثار هذه الجائحة في فخ الاستقرار الذي يخدم مصالح الإرهاب. نحن نعرف أن هناك عبر العالم مجموعة من المناطق التي تعرف نوعا من اللا استقرار السياسي، الحروب، الأمر يؤدي إلى الهجرة وإلى اللجوء. هذه فضاءات تصبح أرضية خصبة للإرهابيين لاستقطاب الأتباع ولتجنيد المقاتلين، بمعنى أنه كلما غاب الاستقرار كلما صارت الأمور ناضجة بالنسبة للحركات الإرهابية من أجل الانتشار أكثر. أعتقد على أنه اليوم من بين الجوانب الأساسية بالإضافة إلى ضمان استقرار عدد من الدول، وقد تطرقت مداخلة سابقة إلى الوضع بليبيا، أعتقد على أنه كذلك يجب الانتباه إلى هذا الجانب، وأن تبادر الحكومات أن تجتهد وأن تدعم مجهوداتها من أجل دعم عدد من الدول التي لا شك من آثار الجائحة عليها سيكون هناك نوع من اللا استقرار الاجتماعي وغياب الأمن الاجتماعي، مما قد يؤدي إلى حالة من الفوضى التي لا شك تخدم مصالح الحركات الإرهابية. هذا جانب أساسي أردت أن أشارككم إياه. شكرا لكم.
Thank you very much. Shukran. Next speaker is the head of the Armenian delegation to the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, Mr. Ike Konyorean.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Roberto.
Thank you.
Hello, dear colleagues. First of all, let me comment baseless allegations of Azerbaijani colleague who again made some blame game about Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. The Nagorno-Karabakh authorities exercise effective control over their territory. The use of the Nagorno-Karabakh territory for terrorist activities is a fantasy employed by the Azerbaijani state propaganda. In response to the ungrounded allegations, we will remind Azerbaijan that there is no single report which may support the veracity of Azerbaijani claims. It is a very simplistic blame game of Azerbaijan, which is also based on Azerbaijani long-standing position of impeding international access to Nagorno-Karabakh. The glory of using first foreign terrorist fighters in our region belongs to Azerbaijan. The US State Department report of 1999, which also referred to Azeri sources, acknowledged the involvement of Islamic terrorist fighters from Azerbaijan, Afghanistan during the active phase of war in Nagorno-Karabakh in the beginning of 1990s. It is an established fact that nowadays hundreds of thousands, if not thousands, of Azerbaijani citizens actively participate in ISIL and other terrorist activities. Azerbaijani's aggression against Nagorno-Karabakh in April 2016 was marked by ISIL-style executions and barbarism. We call upon Azerbaijani to spare the effort of blaming Armenia on any occasion and rather to direct such effort to addressing their problem of Azerbaijani citizens closing the ranks of foreign terrorist fighters. Dear colleagues, the COVID-19 crisis once again showed that global threats do not recognize borders and no nation is immune against the global threats. Armenia was among the first member states to resolutely condemn persecution of civilian population perpetrated by ISIL, Al-Nusra Front, Al-Qaeda and other affiliates. Armenia has demonstrated consistent commitment to help bring lasting change in the areas affected by crisis through our deployment of a national humanitarian mission in Syria in response to the request of Syrian authorities and the Armenian community in Syria. Armenia remains committed to the global fight against terrorism. We are staunch advocates of the international fight against terrorism, regardless of geography, underlying motives or narratives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The list of speakers will be closing soon, so if anyone else wants to speak, please sign up now. And the next speaker is Mr. Belal Qassem, Vice President of PAM and head of the Palestine delegation. You have the floor, sir. Mr. Kassab. Yep.
مساء الخير وسعدتم مساء جميعا، وشكرا على هذه الدعوة الكريمة وعلى المنظمين لهذا اللقاء المهم في ظل جائحة كورونا وفي ظل موقف برلماني عالمي ضد هذه الجائحة ولمواجهتها بشكل موحد، وأيضا لمواجهة الإرهاب بكافة أشكاله وألوانه ومسمياته العديدة. وحقيقة بشكر المتحدثين الذين سبقوني والذين أوضحوا طبيعة ما يجري في ظل هذه الجائحة ومحاولات الإرهابيين الاستمرار في عملهم. وحقيقة أحب أن أنقل موقف البرلمان الفلسطيني والشعب الفلسطيني الذي يدين كافة أعمال الإرهاب وأشكاله ويتعاون بشكل كامل مع كافة الدول لمناهضة هذه الظاهرة الغريبة على مجتمعاتنا والتي تأتي تحت مسميات عديدة. فالإرهاب والتطرف يشكلان أخطر تهديد على مجتمعاتنا الإنسانية، والموقف الفلسطيني نابع من خلال ما يتعرض له شعبنا الفلسطيني تحت الاحتلال من إرهاب الدولة المنظم المدعوم من الحكومة الإسرائيلية والكنيسة الإسرائيلي بكل أسف. ونحن على موعد غدا كما أعلن رئيس الحكومة بنيامين نتنياهو رئيس الحكومة الإسرائيلية عن عملية ضم لأكثر من 30% من أراضي الضفة الغربية وغور الأردن، ونحن نرى بها حقيقة أنها عملية تشبه عملية سطو مسلح على أراضي السلطة الفلسطينية وأراضي الفلسطينيين من قبل حكومة معترف بها. وبالنسبة لنا ندين الإرهاب لأننا نرى أن الاحتلال هو أعلى مراحل الإرهاب. من هنا ضرورة أن نتكاتف جميعا من أجل بناء السلام وفق المواثيق الدولية والقرارات الشرعية الدولية والقانون الدولي. ونحن نرى أن معظم دول العالم ترفض خطة الضم والتهويد الإسرائيلية، ورغم ذلك تستمر حكومة الاحتلال الإسرائيلي بمسيرة الضم بدعم من الإدارة الأمريكية. وأنا أكتفي بما قاله ممثل الجامعة العربية السيد محمد الأمين، وهو يمثل موقف الفلسطينيين وموقف الشعوب العربية والدول الأوروبية الراعية والداعمة للسلام في منطقتنا، وإقامة السلام باعتباره أهم خطوة من خطوات مواجهة الإرهاب. حقيقة أنا أرى كدعم للإخوان الذين سبقوني المتحدثين الذين سبقوني لابد أن يلعب البرلمانيين دور أكبر وبذل مزيد من الجهود لمواجهة ظاهرة الإرهاب في ظل جائحة كورونا، ولا بد محاسبة الدول التي تدعم الإرهاب. أنا بدي أحكي مسألة كتير غريبة وعجيب، كيف انتقل الإرهابيون بشكل علني من شمال سوريا إلى ليبيا؟ من يقوم بنقلهم ومن يدربهم ومن يستخدمهم؟ وكيف يسكت العالم في ظل مشاهدته بشكل مباشر أن هؤلاء المقاتلين الإرهابيين المخربين يقومون بالتنقل عبر البحر الأبيض المتوسط، وهناك رقابة كاملة على البحر الأبيض المتوسط. ختاما بدي أشكر السيد روبرتو والأخوة المتحدثين على تنظيم هذا اللقاء، وشكرا كثيرا لكم، ومعا وسويا سنحارب الإرهاب إن شاء الله. شكرا.
Shukran. I must say this is very interesting. The fact that we've had the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean and the OSCE join forces, it also allows us a little bit to learn about your respective areas. Of course, those from the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean have heard already the comments from Armenia, Azerbaijan, and these are typical issues within the OSCE region. But here we have a great opportunity also to listen to issues which are typical of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. So I'd like again to thank Sergio Piazzi, the Secretary General of PAM, for offering us this opportunity, and of course, Gennaro and probably we must do this more because we really learn from the respective regions, which are very much interrelated. Now we move on to the next speaker from Syria, Mr. Khaled Al-Abad. Mr. Al-Abad, you have the floor. Mr. Al-Abad from Syria. If yeah, I see you have. Go ahead. Yeah, we don't hear you. Colleagues from Damascus, we don't hear you. Yes, now you're muted. Please go ahead. Yep. Go ahead now.
بداية يسرنا أنا الدكتورة أشواق عباس من البرلمان السوري، ونحن باسم البرلمانيين في سوريا نريد أن نسجل بداية شكرنا أن نخصص اليوم العالمي لذكرى الاحتفال أو الاحتفال اليوم العالمي للعمل البرلماني الدولي للحديث عن ظاهرة خطيرة جدا نعاني منها جميعا. ذلك اسمحوا لنا أن نعبر عن سعادتنا تخصيص هذا اليوم مناقشة هذه الظاهرة، واسمحوا لنا أن نتحدث باعتبارنا برلمانيين نمثل شعب عانى من الإرهاب، أي أنه عانى من هذه الظاهرة التي نتحدث عنها اليوم. لذلك نحن نتكلم من عمق المعاناة. حقيقة البرلمان السوري في كل اللقاءات الدولية وخاصة في العمل البرلماني الدولي كان يدعو منذ أكثر من 10 سنوات إلى الحديث وإلى ضرورة العمل وتوحيد الجهود الدولية لمكافحة ظاهرة الإرهاب. 10 سنوات ونحن نقول أن هناك شعوب تتعرض للإرهاب. كان في بداية حديثنا منذ سنوات هناك من ينظر بارتياح إلى مطالبتنا هذه. لذلك بعد 10 سنوات نحن سعداء أن يتحدث الجميع عن هذه الظاهرة وأن هناك من يعاني من هذه الظاهرة. لكن حقيقة عندما نتحدث عن ظاهرة الإرهاب لا يجوز أن نأخذ جزء من هذه الظاهرة وهو العنف والتطرف وأن نقول أن هذا هو الإرهاب أو هذه هي ظاهرة الإرهاب. فاليوم هناك مظاهر جديدة لهذا الإرهاب. صحيح أن الإرهابي أو المتطرف يقوم بقتل الناس عبر السلاح أو المتفجرات، لكن هناك مظاهر جديدة تقتل شعوبا بأكملها تحت مسميات إرهاب جديدة، وفي مقدمتها الإرهاب الذي يحاصر ويجوع المدنيين والشعوب بأكملها. إذا ظاهرة الإرهاب تتطور، هناك مستويات جديدة، ذلك يسرنا أيضا أن ندعو المجتمع الدولي والبرلمانيين الدوليين باعتبارهم يمثلون شعوبهم إلى ضرورة الانتباه إلى هذا المظهر الخطير من الإرهاب والذي يتعرض له اليوم الشعب السوري أو شعوب أخرى في المنطقة كالشعب العراقي والشعب الفلسطيني. أيضا أود أن أسجل ملاحظة في غاية الأهمية ونحن الذين نعاني من هذه الظاهرة، أن اليوم هناك من يستغل ظروفا عامة في العالم ككوفيد 19 ليدعم الإرهاب بعد أن أصبح الإرهاب أو النظامات الإرهابية تحت المجهر الدولي كتنظيم داعش أو النصرة. هناك أنظمة ودول تستغل هذه الجائحة الصحية حول العالم لتمرر دعمها لتلك المجموعات الإرهابية. اليوم نحن أمام ظاهرة يجب علينا أن نتكاتف جميعا للدفاع عن المدنيين، للدفاع عن الشعوب، للدفاع عن أناس إما أن يموتوا ببندقية أو تفجيرات الإرهابي أو أن يموتوا بإرهاب الجوع وإرهاب الحصار وتطبيق قوانين لا تخضع للشرعية الدولية. أصدقائي الأعزاء حول العالم، أدعوكم من سوريا، ندعوكم باسم البرلمانيين السوريين إلى حث الجهود الدولية عبر البرلمانيين، عبر الاتحاد البرلماني لمساعدة شعوبنا على التخلص من الإرهاب بكافة مظاهره العسكري، العنف، التطرف والاقتصادي أيضا. وندعوكم لمد يد الدعم لأن تكون الدول التي تعاني من الإرهاب هي المسؤولة عن ملاحقة الإرهابيين. أنتم عندما يتم إلقاء القبض على أي إرهابي في أي بلد من بلدانكم يتم تسليمه إلى القانون، إلى المحاكمات المختصة. لذلك ندعوكم بأن تساعد الدول التي تعاني من الإرهاب أن تكون هي المسؤولة أيضا عن معاقبة هؤلاء الإرهابيين. فإذا لم تتم معاقبتهم في الأراضي التي أنجزوا بها إرهابهم فهؤلاء سيتم نقلهم إلى أماكن أخرى ليعاد تدويرهم واستخدامهم، كما جرى في نقل إرهابيين من سوريا إلى ليبيا. قد ينتقلون هؤلاء إلى أماكن أخرى. ونحن نتفهم المخاوف الأوروبية من عودة هؤلاء الإرهابيين إلى أوروبا. نشكركم، نشكر تخصيص هذا اليوم للحديث عن هذه الظاهرة، وندعوكم للوقوف إلى جانب الشعوب التي نمثلها نحن كبرلمانيين في كل أنحاء العالم. شكرا أعزائي.
Shukran. Et maintenant, je donne la parole à Madame Ayala Kenza de l'Assemblée parlementaire de la Méditerranée de la Tunisie. Madame Kenza, vous avez la parole. Oui, c'est bon.
شكرا السيد الرئيس، السيدات والسادة زملاء المحترمون، شكرا لجميع المساهمين في تنظيم هذا الحوار الهام، وعلى رأسهم الجمعية البرلمانية للبحر الأبيض المتوسط، والجمعية البرلمانية لمنظمة الأمن والتعاون بأوروبا، ومكتب الأمم المتحدة لمكافحة الإرهاب. أود أن أنوه بالسياسة الاتصالية النشطة والناجعة التي تبذلها الجمعية البرلمانية للبحر الأبيض المتوسط لإبلاغ البرلمانيين بجميع المستجدات والأنشطة التي تقوم بها الجمعية. زملائي البرلمانيون والبرلمانيات من تونس، لكم أفضل التحية، لأن الهدف من هذا اللقاء الوصول إلى بناء خطة ونهج مشترك بشأن الأمن ومكافحة الإرهاب حاضراً ومستقبلاً، وخاصة أثناء الشوائح والأوبئة، ومن أجل سياسة أفضل لمكافحة الإرهاب والعنف والتطرف. يهمني خاصة أثناء يهمني كبرلمانية تونسية المشاركة في هذا العمل بسرد التجربة التونسية في هذا المجال، خاصة أثناء فترة جائحة كورونا، حيث تغلبنا في تونس على محاولات الإرهابيين إرباكنا خلال حربنا على كورونا كوفيد-19، والتي سجلنا خلالها نجاحاً كبيراً على هذه الجائحة برلماناً وحكومة وشعباً. قلت قام الإرهابيون بمحاولة إرهابية غير بعيدة عن موقع السفارة الأمريكية بالعاصمة، كذلك محاولتين فاشلتين في منطقة قصرين، إلا أن السلطات أفشلت تلك المحاولات كما كانت دائماً، ونلاحظ هذا النجاح إذا ما قارنا وضعنا بمناطق أخرى في العالم غير بعيدة عنه. هذا النجاح هو بفضل مقاربة تونسية شاملة في مواجهة الإرهاب والعنف، فهي ليست مقاربة أمنية فحسب، بل تشريعية بإصدار البرلمان قوانين لمكافحة الإرهاب في إطار احترام حقوق الإنسان والحريات التي تضمنها دستور 2014 دستور الجمهورية الثانية. كذلك قانون عدد 26 المؤرخ في 7 أوت 2015 المتعلق بمكافحة الإرهاب وغسل الأموال، إضافة إلى تركيز اللجنة الوطنية لمكافحة الإرهاب واعتماد استراتيجية وطنية لمكافحة التطرف والإرهاب تقوم على الوقاية والحماية والتتبع والرصد والرد على الإرهابيين في الزمان والمكان المناسبين. كما اعتمدت تونس مقاربة ثقافية وتربوية تشاركية تهم جميع الفئات من المواطن العادي والشباب والمرأة ومؤسسات الدولة والمجتمع المدني، إضافة إلى المؤسسات الدينية والتربوية والأمنية والسياسية، بنشر قيم شاملة وتكريس ثقافة الحوار وقبول الآخر والإحاطة النفسية والاجتماعية للضحايا أنفسهم. كما اعتمدت تونس سياسة اتصالية وإعلامية تعتبر ناجحة، تم التركيز خلالها على أن الإرهاب لا علاقة له بالثقافة العربية الإسلامية ولا الدين الإسلامي، بل هو آلية حرب تستهدف الإنسانية على غرار الإرهاب الجرثومي الذي شهده العالم خلال فترة كورونا كوفيد-19. كما تقوم المقاربة التونسية في مقاومة الإرهاب والعنف على بعد اقتصادي، آليته التمكين الاقتصادي للفئات الهشة والفقيرة، التي أثبتت الدراسات أن أغلب المنحرفين والإرهابيين هم من تلك الفئات التي يقع استدراجها وإغراؤها مادياً. لذلك تعمل تونس على التمكين الاقتصادي للشباب والنساء، خاصة في المناطق الفقيرة والمهمشة. في هذا الإطار يسعني اليوم كبرلمانية أن أخاطب الحضور وأطلب بكل لطف دعم التجربة التونسية لتحقيق المزيد من النجاحات على الإرهاب والعنف العابر للأوطان والقارات. أرجو أن أكون قد وفقت في التعريف بتجربتنا وأن تحصل الفائدة، وشكرا.
I'm just waiting for the translation to finish. Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Mr. Stefano from, is the head of the delegation from Cyprus, Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, hello. Greetings from Nicosia, Cyprus. Allow me to present our view on some social aspects of the consequences of the COVID-19. Very briefly, as more than 1/3 of the world's population has been in lockdown, economic activity and trade flows have dramatically diminished, severely impacting national economies. The impact is even greater for poorer countries and the most disadvantaged groups of the society. It is crucial that we place our focus on how to collectively deal with the social economic repercussions of the COVID-19 pandemic. Sadly, the UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Report 2020 presents the gloomy reality of the educational inequality in the world, noting that the coronavirus pandemic exacerbates the already dire circumstances, especially for the most vulnerable. Educational opportunities remain unequally distributed, keeping quality education out of reach for many. According to the report, nearly 260 million children and youth have had no access to education, poverty being the main obstacle. Poorer communities, girls, disabled, immigrants, and ethnic minorities are at an educational disadvantage in many countries. Acknowledging the central role of education in providing the tools for personal and social growth, as well as in promoting a culture of tolerance and social cohesion, we must strive to provide equal access to education for all. We have a collective responsibility to provide support and assistance to the most vulnerable and disadvantaged. We must double our efforts to reduce long-lasting societal breaches that threaten our shared humanity. Obviously, equal access to education cannot be ensured without the eradication of poverty and without policies that promote social inclusion and integration. The recent global health crisis has brought to light more immediately the need for fair social structures that are solid and resilient, not just to protect the most vulnerable, but also to enable their progress and empowerment. By doing so, we can reverse the conditions that attract people, mainly youth, to become radicalized and perform hideous acts of violence against their own societies. And we must prevent this, combating the social rule of the radicalization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Et maintenant, je donne la parole à Monsieur Mohamed El Ajira from Morocco, de l'Assemblée parlementaire de la Méditerranée. Le microphone. On ne vous entend pas. On vous voit, mais on ne vous entend pas. Oui, maintenant c'est bon. Allez-y.
أشكركم سيد الرئيس على تنظيم هذا اللقاء من طرف الجمعية البرلمانية للبحر الأبيض المتوسط والجمعية البرلمانية لمنظمة الأمن والتعاون في أوروبا ومكتب الأمم المتحدة لمكافحة الإرهاب. استمعت بإمعان لكل المداخلات التي كانت في العمق تتكامل على أكثر من صعيد، وأريد بالمناسبة أن أتقاسم معكم بالإضافة إلى ما قاله زميلي السيد نائب شقرات على تجربة المغرب وكيف انخرط في مواجهة الظاهرة منذ أن ضرب الإرهاب المملكة المغربية سنة 2003 إلى يومنا هذا. الشق المتعلق بالحالة الراهنة والآثار السلبية لكوفيد 19 وانعكاساته الاقتصادية وكذلك الاجتماعية. لابد من أكد أنه التعبئة الشاملة للمملكة المغربية ومنذ البداية، حيث أنه في المغرب قمنا بتشكيل وحدوي وطني بتوجيهات ملكية، وخلقنا صندوق خاص لمواجهة الجائحة. هذه الإمكانيات المادية رصدت للفئات الاجتماعية التي تستحق الدعم، وهنا هذا مرتكز أساسي في استراتيجية المغرب الثابتة في مواجهة وتحصين الفئات الاجتماعية الهشة من محاولات الجماعات المتطرفة من الاقتتال يعني على هذه الفئة، حيث أنه في المغرب خصصنا إمكانيات مادية لهذه الفئات لمواجهة الجائحة على اعتبار أنها كانت في وضع حجر صحي، أيضا للمقاولات من أجل الحفاظ على مناصب الشغل. وهنا تبدو التكامل ما بين الاستراتيجية المغربية التي تنبني على 3 محاور، أهمها الشق المتعلق بالاستباقية، وأيضا الإصلاح الذي شملته مجموعة من الأوراش. الشق المتعلق بالاستباقية اعتمدت المملكة المغربية في هذا الباب على مجموعة من يعني استراتيجيات أو من البرامج التي ذهبت إلى التصدي الاستباقي لكل هذه التنظيمات الإرهابية. خلال ال10 سنوات الأخيرة تم تفكيك ما يزيد على 200 خلية إرهابية، وفي سنة 2019 تم تفكيك 13 خلية إرهابية في يعني جو من الاحترافية وباحترام حقوق الإنسان في التدخلات، حيث أنه تكون حاضرة هذه المهنية في هذا الشق. أيضا هذه الاستراتيجية لا تقتصر فقط على الاستباقية، ولكن تتجه إلى تحصين الفئات المرشحة للانخراط في الأنشطة ذات الطبيعة المتطرفة من خلال إصلاح المجال الديني وتنمية المناطق الهشة. في هذا الشق هناك عمل جبار تجلى في إحباط مشروع شبكة إرهابية تنشط بالمغرب وإسبانيا ضمن تنظيم داعش الإرهابي، بمعنى المغرب يتعاون مع جيرانه في الشمال ومع جيرانه في الجنوب في معلومات وفي إطار تنسيق ما بين الأجهزة الأمنية في ضفتي المتوسط من أجل تكسير كل المحاولات الإرهابية التي قد تنطلق من الجنوب أو الشمال ويكون لها أثر سلبي على التي تقع فيها. أيضا هناك محور مهم يتجلى في الشق المتعلق بالمصالحة على المستوى الوطني، بحيث أن المتورطين في العمليات الإرهابية والذين تمت محاكمتهم على المستوى الوطني يقضون يعني المدة التي تم بها محاكمتهم. وأيضا هناك الشق المتعلق بالمراجعات التي يقوم بها بعض المتطرفين الذين تم ضبطهم وهم يعدون إلى هذه العمليات الإرهابية، أو يقومون ب يعني تجنيد مجموعة من الشباب أو الشابات والدفع بهم إلى بؤر التوتر سواء في سوريا سابقا أو في العراق أو في غيره من البلدان. الآن طبعا كما قال الزملاء من قبلي، هو أن تقويات القدرات الرصد والمراقبة على مستوى نقاط العبور الحدودية وتقوية العمل الاستعلاماتي وتبادل المعلومات والتنسيق ما بين مختلف المصالح الأمنية أعطى نتائج جد إيجابية وجنب المغرب مجموعة من الكوارث التي كانت تقع، كما ساعد جيراننا في الضفة الشمالية في بلجيكا وإسبانيا وفرنسا وغيرها من الدول من تجنب الأسواء. لكن الواقع الآن هو أنه هناك فضاءات كبرى في الصحراء وأيضا في ليبيا. هناك تحرك يعني خطير يهدد الأمن في الضفة الجنوبية، وستكون له لا محالة انعكاسات إن لم نتحرك بشكل جماعي لمواجهة هذه الظاهرة في هذه المنطقة، خصوصا أن المرتزقة يتحركون في هذه المناطق بعيدين عن المراقبة وبعيدين عن يعني عن كل تأثير في مجال تكثر فيه تهريب البشر وتهريب المخدرات وتهريب يعني التجار كما قلت في البشر. وتم استغلال هذه العمليات لضرب هذا الاستقرار الذي تنعم به مجموعة من البلدان. وأشير إلى أنه اتفاق الصخيرات في الشق المتعلق بليبيا لا زال صالحا من أجل ونتشبث فيه في المغرب من أجل أن تتاح فرصة للليبيين فيما بينهم من أجل أولا الشعب الليبي ووعي ليبيا وعدم تشجيعها وتشتيت كل التراكمات الإيجابية التي تمت هناك. لكن في تقديري الأولويات مع الجائحة تتغير، خصوصا التعليم، موضوع التعليم وموضوع الرقمنة، التمكين الاقتصادي والاجتماعي عن طريق التعليم في الضفة الجنوبية لأبناء المتوسط وكل إفريقيا سيكون مدخل حقيقي من أجل أن يعني نمنع هؤلاء هؤلاء الشباب ونساء هذه القارة من أجل مواجهة الإرهاب وعدم السماح للمجموعات الإرهابية ب يعني تجنيدها لضرب استقرار الضفة الجنوبية للمتوسط أو الضفة الشمالية. لكن أحييكم على هذه المبادرة التي تحتموها هنا للاستماع إلى بعضنا البعض للشق المتعلق بأمننا واستقرارنا واقتصادنا والتجارب هي ناجحة. شكرا لكم. شكرا لكم.
Thank you very much. Et maintenant, je donne la parole au rapporteur sur la migration de l'Algérie, qui appartient à l'Assemblée parlementaire de la Méditerranée, Monsieur Ammar Moussi. Vous avez la parole. On vous voit, mais on ne vous entend pas. On vous voit, vous êtes prêt à parler, mais on ne vous entend pas. Ok, peut-être on essaie plus tard. On essaie plus tard, ok. So we move on to the representative of Palestine within the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, Mr. Omar Ahmehel. Sorry, you have the floor. No? Then back to Tunisia, Mr. Jedidi Spoui. Yes, I see you are connected. Go ahead, Monsieur. Le microphone. Yep.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم.
السيد الرئيس، السيدات والسادة الزملاء المحترمون، شكرا لجميع المتدخلين في تنظيم هذا الاجتماع الهام. لنتفق جميعا منذ البداية أن الإرهاب لا دين له ولا وطن له ولا هوية له ولا قيم له. وعلى هذا الأساس أريد أن أبدأ بالمقاربة التونسية في محاربة الإرهاب. أن رغم النجاحات الكبيرة التي حققتها الدولة التونسية في مكافحتها للإرهاب، إلا أن المقاربة الأمنية وحدها لا تكفي للقضاء على الإرهاب. لذا لابد من اعتماد مجموعة من الاستراتيجيات والتكتيكات الأخرى. أولاً، فيما يتعلق بالمقاربة الأمنية، لابد من ضمان كل الدعم اللوجستي اللازم للمؤسسة الأمنية والعسكرية من تدريب وأجهزة وعتاد متطور، ورصد ميزانية خاصة لمكافحة هذه الآفة، وتعزيز أدوات المتابعة الاستخباراتية الداخلية ودعمها بمجموعة من الاتفاقيات للتنسيق الأمني على المستوى الإقليمي والدولي، وتطوير أساليب التتبع الأمني، خاصة وأن مرتكبي العمليات الإرهابية قد طوروا من أساليب عملهم سواء من حيث مصادر التمويل أو من حيث استخدامهم لمختلف التطبيقات التكنولوجية والذكاء الاصطناعي. ثانياً، لا بد من اعتماد مقاربة شمولية ترتكز إضافة إلى المجهودات الأمنية على البرامج الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والثقافية والتعليمية والإعلامية والسياسية من خلال خطة مشتركة لغاية مكافحة الإرهاب، متفق عليها بالتنسيق والتعاون بين كل المتدخلين في هذه القطاعات. وهذه الخطة المشتركة تشترط تحقيق نجاحات ملموسة على أرض الواقع. فالنجاح الاقتصادي من شأنه القضاء على الفقر ومشكلة البطالة وإحداث توازن بين المناطق المهمشة وبقية المناطق، بما يساهم في تجفيف الحاضنة الرئيسية للإرهاب، وهي حاضنة تنشأ نتيجة الإخفاقات في هذه المجالات، إلا أن لا بد من اعتماد سياسة إعلامية ناجحة بخطاب متوازن يشجع على التسامح ونبذ العنف والتطرف والتعصب لأي سبب كان، وخلق وعي فردي وجماعي مقاوم ومكافح للإرهاب. وينطبق نفس الأمر على سياسات التعليم التي من شأنها أن تعمق الالتزام الوطني وروح الوعي والمسؤولية بمنهجها التعليمي والقضاء على كل الأفكار التي تحرض على العنف والتطرف بشكل مباشر أو غير مباشر. ثالثاً، لا بد من سن تشريعات ولوائح تتضمن معايير وضوابط متفق عليها بين كافة الأطراف المعنية، والتي من شأنها الموازنة بين هذه الضوابط والمعايير من ناحية، وبين الحقوق المقررة في الدستور والنصوص القانونية والاتفاقات الدولية المتعلقة خاصة بحرية الرأي والتعبير والمعتقد وحرية الإعلام من ناحية ثانية. ويمكن لمجلس نواب الشعب الموقر التونسي المصادقة على مدونة سلوك في هذه المجالات المختلفة. رابعاً، يبقى أخطر أنواع المكافحة هو مكافحة إرهاب الدولة والإرهاب بين الدول المتصارعة، وتعتبر ثوابت السياسة التونسية في نصرة القضايا العادلة كما نص عليه الدستور، إضافة لمقاربتها السلمية باعتبارها ركيزة هامة لا بد من البناء عليه وتطويرها كأحد أشكال مكافحة هذا النوع من الإرهاب. إن سياسة تونس في مكافحة الإرهاب والعنف تعتبر ناجحة لأن ثوابت الدولة التونسية تقوم على الالتزام بالحياد الإيجابي وعدم الاستفاف وراء المحاور المتسارعة والتورط في الصراعات التي يمكن لها أن تنعكس سلباً على الاستقرار في بلادنا. وقد تميزت السياسات الثابتة للدولة التونسية باعتماد قوة الاقتراح السلمي بديلاً عن تأجيج الصراعات المسلحة التي يتخللها عادة العديد من العمليات الإرهابية. وشكراً على حسن الاستزغاء.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Ms. Amina Agazada from Azerbaijan. Amina, you have the floor. Amina, you're muted now. Yes, go ahead now.
Thank you, Mr. Montella. And also, thanks for organizing such an important dialogue. I wanted to take a completely different direction, but unfortunately the speeches of the head of the delegation from Armenia leading their own propaganda, which does not correspond to reality, changed some points in my speech. I want to say that what Tural Ganjaliyev noted with regard to crimes committed by Armenian terrorists against Azerbaijanis was confirmed by both the investigation and the international community. And the speech of the Armenian representative is another fantasy, and I don't want to focus on this, and will inform you about the work done in Azerbaijan on the fight against terrorism. As a country suffering from terrorism, the Republic of Azerbaijan has done many works in this area, both in the field of legislation and the field of security, and has regularly cooperated with international organizations in the field of combating terrorism. Azerbaijan considers international cooperation as one of the most important components of the global fight against terrorism. In addition to concluding bilateral, trilateral, and multilateral agreements with different states to enforce joint counter-terrorist capabilities, the Republic of Azerbaijan also actively takes part in regional and international cooperation mechanisms. It cooperates with UN Counter-Terrorism Office, OSCE, Transnational Trace Departments, Committee of Experts of the Council of Europe on Countering Terrorism, relevant agencies of Guam, European Union, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Terrorist crimes were identified in the crimes against public safety chapter of the Crimes Against Public Safety and Public Order section of the Criminal Code of the Republic of Azerbaijan. As seen from the name of this section and chapter, our national legislation considers such crimes as crimes against public safety and public orders. Those except for criminal law norms such as terrorism, knowingly giving false information about terrorism, forming a criminal organization, hijacking an air or water transport vessel or a railway train in the Criminal Code of the Republic of Azerbaijan, which came into force on September 1st, 2000, in accordance with the requirements of modern time and based on the gained national legislation and international experience. Many new norms have recently been added to the Criminal Code in connection with terrorism and radicalism that it also created favorable conditions for more effectively fighting against terrorism and radicalism by law enforcement agencies in modern time and giving more accurate assessments to the action of guilty persons participate in the preparation and commission of such crimes. Currently, independent criminal norms such as financing of terrorism, public appeal directed against the terrorism, training for the purpose of terrorism, sea piracy have been accepted through making additions and amendments to the Criminal Code of Azerbaijan. In order to strengthen the fight in this area, a new article in our Criminal Code, creation of a stable group for participation in armed conflict outside the Republic of Azerbaijan has been added to the Criminal Code of the Republic of Azerbaijan, and the law date of 14 March 2014 that also in its turn creates favorable condition for giving more accurate legal assessment to the action of the people who participate in the above mentioned illegal armed groups. At the same time, it should be noted that according to Article 12 of the Criminal Code of the Republic of Azerbaijan, citizens of the Azerbaijan Republic, foreigners, and stateless persons have committed crimes against the peace and mankind, war crimes, terrorism, financing of terrorism, stealing of an airship, a sea piracy, illegal circulation of narcotics, attack on person or the organization using the international protection, and also other crimes punished of which stipulate in international agreements to which Azerbaijan Republic is a party shall be instituted to criminal liability and punished under the present code, irrespective of a place of committing a crime. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Amina. Et le dernier speaker, c'est Monsieur Moussi de l'Algérie. Monsieur Moussi? Oui, on vous voit, mais on ne vous entend pas. Speak. afraid we cannot hear you. Can see you, but we cannot hear you. Tough luck. All right. I think we will close the debate here. And now I will give the floor to Ambassador Kupchinan for her reply, and then Ambassador Ikek. Ambassador Ikek? You're connected? Yeah, maybe it's better.
Oui, écoutez, vous m'entendez?
Oui, oui, oui.
Merci bien, merci surtout M. Roberto Montella pour la brillante administration de notre débat, la grande classe. Il n'y a pas eu de questions vraiment qui m'ont été adressées personnellement en tant que représentant de la Ligue arabe ici. Cependant, je me permettrai un peu, je crois que notre ami Montemer qui est là, c'est pour appuyer surtout les quelques remarques, les observations qu'il a faites sur deux sujets principaux. Comme je vous l'ai dit, comme ressortissant d'un pays du G5 Sahel, il a fait une belle image, c'est-à-dire en disant que une chaise à une table ne peut pas se tenir sur trois pieds. Et c'est vrai, l'aspect uniquement militaire ne résout pas les problèmes du terrorisme. Parce que depuis 2001, il y a une accentuation de la lutte contre le terrorisme. Mais jusqu'à présent, non seulement il n'a pas été éradiqué, mais je crois qu'il s'est même métastasé, qu'il s'est développé, il a pris plusieurs formes. Et actuellement, on est en train de craindre qu'il prenne d'autres formes plus graves encore, c'est-à-dire en utilisant les armes de destruction massive. Et en utilisant même probablement le Covid comme moyen de lutte pour elle. Ce qui importe surtout, à mon avis, pour régler le problème il y a deux aspects pour ce problème de la lutte contre le terrorisme. Il y a des injustices qui subissent certains peuples, comme le peuple palestinien. Et donc, régler ce problème-là est de nature à éradiquer ce qu'on peut appeler la violence légitime pour les concernés, pour acquérir leurs droits légitimes. Et ça contribue, ça crée une atmosphère qui est propice à des actions. Un camp le considère comme légitime et salé, et l'autre le considère comme le terrorisme. Il faut régler le problème de la Palestine, et c'est le premier numéro un, le problème numéro un qui pose problème dans la sous-région. Au niveau du Sahel, c'est la pauvreté simplement. Imaginez dans le nord du Mali, l'État est totalement absent, il n'y a pas d'école, il n'y a pas de coûts, il n'y a pas de soins, il n'y a pas de médicaments. Un groupe terroriste arrive avec des narcotrafiquants et ils prennent la place et ils sont accueillis par la population. Je crois qu'effectivement, il y a cet aspect-là qu'il ne faut pas mettre il ne suffit pas de bombarder avec des drones, avec des armes sophistiquées pour éradiquer le terrorisme. Il faut offrir aux gens l'éducation, le soin, la nourriture, les vêtements. Et c'est des gens qui sont dans un besoin extrême, des besoins vraiment primaires de nourriture, de soins. Et ça, le nord du Mali, c'est ça, c'est la situation qui prévaut comme ça. Et c'est pas avec des drones, avec des bombardements, qu'on peut régler le problème. On peut tuer un groupe par dizaines, mais au bout d'un certain temps, il va falloir que les gens qui n'ont pas les moyens de vivre, qui n'ont pas les moyens de se soigner, les groupes terroristes arrivent et ils prennent la place. Ils sont bien accueillis à bras ouverts par les populations. Je crois que l'État est défaillant, et là où l'État est défaillant, le problème se pose. Voilà, ce sont des aspects que je voudrais... et surtout, je souligne sur un trait indélébile le fait que l'un de nos intervenants avait souligné que le terrorisme n'a pas de religion, n'a pas de nom. Il n'y a pas de terrorisme islamique, il n'y a pas de terrorisme chrétien. C'est des gens qui utilisent souvent l'islam ou d'autres religions pour faire... Mais il n'y a pas de l'islam, il n'y a pas un régime de terrorisme. Je vous remercie, M. Robert.
Merci beaucoup, c'est très gentil. Wow, we still have 87 participants online. We are approaching towards the end. I now give the floor to Ambassador Kupchinan from Vienna. If you hear me, I see you are connected. If you want to make some closing remarks before I revert to President Saratelli. Okay, go ahead, Ambassador.
Of course, thank you very much. I would like to thank all of you, distinguished participants, for the interesting and thought-provoking discussion today. Of course, terrorist activity in today's world is complex, multifaceted, and not confined to national borders. Groups are less cohesive, and the threat is harder to understand and predict. We are witnessing not only directed attacks in the OSCE region, but also self-inspired acts of violence. Some terrorist actors are foreign fighters. Others have never left their communities. The goals, motives, and justification for the violence have changed as well, and the targets today are more indiscriminate. This reality requires a comprehensive, nuanced, and internationally coordinated response. The OSCE commitment to address these transnational threats reflect the understanding that effective counterterrorism operations are insufficient without an investment in prevention and multilateral coordination. And of course, I would like to emphasize the crucial, critical role of the parliaments and interparliamentarian cooperation. With regard to the specific question which was raised by a distinguished vice president from Sweden, and this is about foreign terrorist fighters, actually, yes. After the recent developments in Syria and Iraq, as well as in other conflict areas, many OSCE participating states and partners for cooperation are now facing the challenge of the return of foreign terrorist fighters. The primary concern on returnees is linked with the fears that some of them may commit acts of violence, incite others to engage in terrorist activities, or take part in recruitment and fundraising efforts for terrorist organizations. The issue of repatriation has come to the forefront of discussions on how to address this in compliance with international obligations and standards. And I would argue that as in every other human process, treatment determines behavior. Therefore, ensuring appropriate treatment of these returnees and their families through differentiated approaches, particularly while dealing with minors and women, will be crucial in determining their will to renounce violence and open the way to appropriate rehabilitation and reintegration. And once again, I would like to refer to the conference that I already mentioned in my today's presentation. This is the conference on foreign terrorist fighters addressing current challenges, which we held in February this year together with the UNOCT, and the outcomes of this conference will be presented next week during this virtual UNOCT counterterrorism week. And after having scrutinized these outcomes, we would appreciate very much to receive the guidance from the OSCE participating states, how better we can serve them to assist to tackle these threats. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And now we will try again with the video of the UN Secretary General, Antonio Gutierrez. And after this video, I will give the floor to our president, George Serratelli, and Gennaro Migliore from PAM to conclude the event. So, team, can you try to put on the video? Go ahead.
The International Day of Parliamentarism is a timely occasion to honor the pivotal role of parliaments in giving people a voice and influence to shape policy. As a former parliamentarian, I am deeply conscious of the responsibility and privilege of representing people and delivering on their aspirations. Parliaments have a special duty to advance human rights and promote sustainable development. More than ever, the COVID-19 pandemic reminds us of these vital tasks. As the world responds to the pandemic, we see the critical importance of adequate health systems, robust social safety networks, and equitable economic growth that generates decent jobs. We also see the most vulnerable in our societies, especially women, bearing the greatest burden. Inequalities, stigmas, divisions, and the fragilities of our world have multiplied before our eyes. We must act together to rebuild a more equal, resilient, and greener future for all. I urge national parliaments everywhere to play their full part in advancing sustainable, inclusive responses. This should include, in collaboration with civil society, national action plans against racial discrimination. At the same time, let's remember that no nation can succeed on its own. Let's seize every opportunity to secure our common future, take ambitious climate action, and place human rights and human dignity at the core of our work. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the UN Secretary General for this very nice message, concise and precise. With those words and with that wish, I give the floor to President Serratelli.
Well, good evening. So, in my own country, in Georgia, it's evening. And I think it was very interesting video conference today. I'm, of course, happy that Secretary General of UN also participated in this forum, and particularly very, let's say, satisfied that it coincided with the Day of Parliamentarism. I'd like to congratulate all my colleagues here, and all the idea of parliamentarism is that what we are doing today. Because of COVID, we could not meet in person, but we are working online and we're discussing issues that bothering our societies, our people, and that's of course more than welcome. Dear friends and colleagues, was tuned in when you started after maybe 10-15 minutes, and I heard all the interesting interventions, very interesting keynote speakers, and I'd like to thank all of them, and of course all participants for their very active engagement today. And speaking about parliamentarism, I think it's also a very good example how parliamentary bodies are cooperating today, and I'm happy that we have the joint conference with our PAM colleagues, our friends from different countries and from our partner countries, and I think that's very good endeavor. So I think for all of us, it was very interesting to learn more about terrorist groups that have been affected by or adapted to the pandemic. While most of our attention has been captivated with the response to COVID-19 in recent months, it is important also to keep updated on developments in the Mediterranean, North Africa, the Sahel, and the Middle East, to maintain security in the OSCE region, in our region. Although the danger of transnational terrorism remains, and many speakers and all of you mentioned that boldly, we should also be aware that the pandemic itself has created potential for violence. Prolonged lockdowns have increased public frustration, and we see that in all our countries. And we've seen a rise of disinformation, and economic precarity is creating a more fertile ground for radical narratives. There is a significant current increase in online extremism activity, raising the risk of increasing short to medium-term radicalization. And of course, additionally to other, let's say, threats, one very genuine concern is that COVID-19 may lead to a resurgence in interest among terrorists for using chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear weapons. So this experience with COVID has underlined the importance of preparedness plans, particularly thinking about different scenarios that might develop and what kind of capacities will be needed. As parliamentarians, we must therefore continue to take the pulse of our communities. We must remain responsive to their concerns to prevent radicalization and its many dangers, which is not, of course, not easy. And this was, I think, a landmark event for the OSCEPA, because despite the difficult circumstances in most of our countries, it served to highlight the importance of joining forces to fight terrorism. Each of our organizations have their own distinct strengths. Parliamentarians, for instance, have a key role to play in harmonizing national approaches and policy frameworks. And to be more efficient, we must encourage mechanisms for information sharing. And of course, it was in this period that earlier this year, our Parliamentary Assembly signed a memorandum of understanding with UN Office of Counterterrorism. I'm glad that this good institutional cooperation has enabled us to meet together today. I want to mention our very good cooperation with PAM, with the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, and I'm particularly very much thankful to Secretary General of this organization and many leaders who've been today with us, Secretary General Sergio Piazzi. So, and we need this, of course, to further advance the parliamentary contribution to international efforts against terrorism. In the broader context of COVID-19 pandemic, this is also a step to further revitalize our multilateral system, which has been under strain for a number of years already. And it's always good to remember that our countries have understood early in that fight against terrorism and must rely on high-level multilateral cooperation and coordination to be efficient. Preventing terror attacks and dismantling networks relies first and foremost on all our countries being well-informed and sharing intelligence. And within the OSCE, despite of disagreements on some major, sometimes, issues, combating terrorists has been one of the areas in which we have cooperation and enjoyed cooperation with many countries, many regions, and I think that's it's very important. I'm glad that we got to hear from these countries also today, and I hope that successes in this field can continue to serve as a blueprint in others and further reinforce the idea that concerted responses are the most efficient in dealing with global challenges. Before I conclude, let me thank again the chair of the Committee of Countering Terrorism, my good friend Reinhold Rupatka, all, of course, our leaders who participated in this conference, Secretary General Roberto Montero for moderating this event, and of course our staff, Marco, Anna, Anya, and the OSCEPA, of course, at the OSCEPA, as well as staff from our partner organizations. So thank you very much and good luck in your activities.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And now the concluding remarks from Gennaro Migliore, onorevole Migliore. Avevo un presidente che si chiamava Migliori.
I remember, and I knew him. First of all, I want to thanks again for the perfect organization, the OSCEPA and PAM and UNOCT, because we are facing this very complicated issue in a very comprehensive way. Everybody has a very strong contribution to our debate, and I hope that it is possible to continue in this way for next months. I can summarize some consideration in this way. After COVID-19, we face all problems in a new era, because after the COVID-19, a lot of things are changing, and also we have to change our attitude to the problem that we know very well, but in this new phase, it's important to manage with other activities and other instruments. For example, the situation also, we are using a web platform to have this web dialogue, but the deepening use of the web from the terrorist organization is now maybe the first problem, not only for the radicalization of people, but also for the networking, also for funding for this organization. And so we have to manage with the new threats that are combined with some failure in national organization, as for example, Mr. Margelletti said in his intervention, and not only him, but other, where the possibility to have a control of areas by the terrorist organization is not only made by violence, but also with a kind of welfare that is in this pandemic situation so important. So we need different answers, and I guess that it's important to discuss in a parliamentary way this kind of response, because of course the first activity is due to the governments, but the parliamentary way is to be able to ease the dialogue and to build a framework, a common framework, a legislative framework that is possible to apply in different countries. In order to this situation, I guess that it's important to focus the regional crisis. We heard a lot about the crisis around the Nagorno-Karabakh region, or for example, for the conflict in Israel and Palestinian region. So we have to remark that fighting against terrorism is not only a single issue activity. Fighting terrorism, it's a comprehensive activity that involved from the education to the repression to the international law. That's why it's so important to have this kind of meetings, because this holistic approach is the only possible to face these dramatic threats for all the countries. Terrorism, I agree with the people that said it, is not only a problem of, or it's present only on the Islamic side. We know everyone that there are terroristic organizations coming from suprematist and far right that attacks Muslim people, for example. And on the other side, we know that the jihadist terrorism, first of all, attacks the Muslim people in their countries. That's why we need this new approach, this new situation. Also for us, using more the internet connection, the sharing opportunity to have a common platform. For that, I imagine that the organization like OSCE and UNOCT are the best for us to have not only information but also coordination. And it's a pleasure for me to have the privilege to conclude this very important web dialogue because we need this kind of dialogue. And of course, I wait for you in the next meeting. I hope also in presence in Italy when on 29th of October we had a meeting, a special meeting organized with the United Nations in collaboration with the United Nations and IPU on the victim of terrorism. That's why we are facing this new era after the COVID-19. We had to manage in all ways the possibility to have more strong collaboration. The pandemic shows that we are all under attack of a virus, but in any case, we have to understand that all the global threats are to be faced together. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Onorevole Migliore, for these concluding remarks, which I totally subscribe. I'm convinced that fighting global challenges like the one of terrorism, but also the one of climate change and all the other ones require global cooperation between international actors. And I think what we did today, and I congratulate all those who participated, we've done exactly that, putting together the assets of the UN, of the OSCE, of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Mediterranean, not in a competitive fashion, but in a very cooperative fashion, and trying to find the forte, which is in each of these organizations, and to put it together at the service of the constituencies we all represent. So I really would like to congratulate all of those who have participated, and also spend a word to thank those who have actually organized the event and have worked on this organization, from Pram Vladimir Khrushchev and from the UNOCT Olga Lachenko, and of course all the rest of the staff. From the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly, the event was organized by Marco Bonabello, who should have actually moderated this event. Unfortunately, his father passed away last week, so he had to go to Italy and he couldn't moderate the event, but he asked me to pass also his regards to all of you. And I would like to thank Marco and of course Anna and team and the rest of the team in Vienna who has helped us put together this event. So thank you all for participating in this event, and I look forward to the future opportunities to collaborate, and definitely this event in Rome hopefully will be one of the first chances to also meet in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The official part is over.